Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if female Naruto awakes in the time of Sengoku Jidai. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. A blade runs through a young woman as she cries in pain. Within seconds an unknown force grabs onto her. To her it feels like an aggressive blanket of chakra. It doesn't take her long to understand what is going on. She can feel that the biju she contains gets forcefully ripped out of her, but this time she doesn't give her opponent the pleasure of showing her pain. Bit by bit the chakra get dragged out of her. For her it feels like someone rips her inner organs out of her, as slow as possible. She smiles as she ignores the growing pain and tiredly thinks, that's it. I'm dying. The almighty king of biju silently whispers his goodbye in her mind. Kit, it was nice to fight alongside you. I hope we'll meet again when we're reborn. Weak, his precious host answers her goodbye to the beast she got to love like a father before she closes her eyes one last time. The rain falls as if it tries to wash away all the blood that was shed in this last desperate battle against her, the wannabe goddess Madara Uchiha. It is as if heaven itself is crying for the last person to fight against this maniac. It's like the world is grieving all the fallen lying around on the battlefield. A battlefield like this did never exist before. Even the clan wars were more merciful. Ah! A painful cry rips through the nightly silence. The young woman feels so much pain. Terrible wounds decorate her broken body. She whimpers and cries not only because of her physical but also her mental pain. How am I still alive? She thinks desperately. Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, Kakashi, all of them. Why couldn't I die? Ate them. After some time she can hear a group of people nearing her. Shinobi, she presumes. Poor thing, probably a civilian caught in a fight between shinobi, a young short, black-haired shinobi states. We should kill her and spare her from further suffering, suggests his blonde colleague. What do you think? Batsuma-sama addresses a older shinobi, their leader. Their black-haired leader looks at the girl in front of him. She had to be around 13 summers old. What really caught his eye is her beauty. Behind all those painful wounds hides the beauty of a goddess, or at least he thinks so. Such a waste. Men, I want you to continue on to the compound. I'll take the child to the next village. They should decide upon her fate. But Tsuma-sama? Why should village people decide upon her fate, not us? But Tsuma grits his teeth at this young one's insolence. He dares talking back to me? She's a civilian, therefore her kind should decide for her, not us. Shouldn't someone of us take her there? I mean, you have to return to the clan. Batsuma-sama, the blonde shinobi suggests. But Tsuma stares at him before questioning him. Are you disobeying me? Of course not, but Tsuma-sama. The shinobi answers immediately, afraid of his leader's wrath. Well, then what are you waiting for? As soon as his men are out of sight, he knees down beside her and inspects her wounds. He decides to heal the life-threatening ones himself. Carefully he runs his fingertips over her body. She's truly beautiful. Who? The girl asks weakly. But Tsuma, don't talk, he instructs her. Hurts, he looks at the grimacing girl. A fresh wave of tears runs down her cheeks. I know, try to not move. Why am I caring so much for her? My wife waits for me back at the compound and this girl is too young for me. Not that it's forbidden or frowned upon. Many men have women half their age. Don't go down that road, you don't even know her. For all you know she could be a spy or a civilian of an enemy clan. Thank you. I'm Nayuki. Even though she's in a lot of pain she tries to smile at her savior. Shush, don't waste your energy on talking to me. Spare your energy for getting better, he tells her in his best soothing voice. Hi, she answers weakly before closing her eyes and falling asleep. She's too trusting, I could do anything to her. He takes her into his arms and takes off into the direction of the next village. From time to time he lets his eyes wander to the young woman in his arms. He watches as her face twists into grimaces and relaxes again. Whenever he can, he avoids movements which harm her. After he reaches his destination, he places Nayuki on the doorstep of the local medics. Nayuki? He smiles at her, his first sincere smile in a long time, and whispers, I'll be back. He shortly knocks at the door and disappears into the night. Nayuki's pain dulls after some time. When she wakes up, she is greeted by a stranger. She inspects the stranger hovering above her. He has short purple hair. His eyes are the same shade of purple as his hair. The man seems to be in his early 20s and looks like an ordinary civilian. This revelation calms her at least a tiny little bit because civilian couldn't hurt her easily. She could overpower him with ease. Just when she begins to inspect his blue kimono, she is startled out of her thoughts by his voice. "How are you, girl?" he asks her, slightly worried. She was unconscious for the better half of the week. "Better?" An expression of relief crosses the man's face. He can't help but feel a bit better and laughs wholeheartedly. Amusement dances through purple eyes and moves some strands of his bangs out of his face. As he addresses her again, amusement can still be heard in his voice. "Oh girl, you were knocking on death's door when you got to me. Your wounds are healing fine now. Tell me, child, what's your name and why were you hurt like that?" Nayuki thinks for a bit before she decides to answer. "I'm Nayuki. I can't really remember it, but I'm sure that shinobi were involved." "What is your name, if I'm allowed to ask?" He looks at her, surprised that he forgot to introduce himself before asking the girl for her name. "I'm Ray, your medic." "Thank you, Ray. Can you tell me where we are?" "We are in Hai no Kuni, near the Senju and Uchiha clan territories." "That's the reason I'm not surprised that you got hurt by shinobi. We live in a rather dangerous area with those rivaling clans nearby, don't you agree?" Senju and Uchiha territories, rivaling clans, dangerous? Her mind begins to spin. How is that possible? The Uchiha and Senju clans are at the border of extinction. Even if they weren't that few in numbers, there haven't been clan territories for many years, since Konoha's birth to be exact. This makes no sense. "Oh no, please don't tell me." "No, time travel is impossible, isn't it?" A pearl of cold sweat begins to form on her forehead as she asks the dreaded question. "Ray, would you mind giving me today's date?" At his answer, her face drains of every last bit of color. Only one thought runs through her head as she loses conscious again. How? Nayuki has lived with Ray for the last 2 years. After the shocking discovery of her time travel and the slightly change of her appearance, she has now blonde long hair with black bangs and was de-aged about 6 years. Imagine her surprise. She died with 19 and woke up again as a 13-year-old and finds out that Kurama isn't with her anymore. She decided to learn all of Ree's medical knowledge and has trained her medic nin skills in secret because officially she's only a civilian. She told nobody of the life she lived through in the future. Therefore, she is grateful to have been able to witness Tsunade's and Sakura's healing techniques. To her surprise, sometimes her savior came to visit. The first time he came, she nearly hit him with a broom. Well, who could hold it against her? He appeared out of nowhere and scowled at her in his shinobi armor. His dark eyes were fixed upon her, his brown hair flying in the wind, while his whole posture seemed threatening. It was only a natural reaction to try and defend herself in this position. After some explaining, she got to know the man named Batsuma, her savior. Even though she tried to distance herself from him, she began to fall in love with the 15 years older man. At the moment, she is running down the path to the riverside with a basket in her arms, where she intends to wash clothes. By the river, she sets the basket down and begins her work. She takes a shirt, puts it into the water and begins to scrub it on her washboard. After some time, she can feel Batsuma arrive. Instead of coming up to her, he stays on a branch up a high tree and observes her. Her every move sends a wave of heat down to his lower parts. He knows that he shouldn't feel for her that way, but he can't change it anyway, so he watches on till she falls into the river. When she gets up again, her wet clothes stick to her figure and become a bit see-through. He decides to jump down and runs up to her. His pants seem painfully tight, hopefully she won't notice it. He stops only a few steps away from her to admire her beautiful body. I wonder how it feels to ravish her pink lips in trance. He moves closer and traces her lips with his fingertips. A blush creeps onto her cheeks as she tells him, "I don't want your finger, can you kiss me?" No more words are needed. Immediately he moves his lips to meet hers. Their lips dance in sync as their hands roam each other's body. The kiss is hungry and passionate. Nayuki nearly lost balance once in her overwhelmed state. But Batsuma moves his hands down to her hips in order to steady her. Soon he wants more. His hands move under her shirt and it doesn't take long until he begins to strip the young woman in his arms. Slowly he rids her body of her wet clothes and turns to remove his own. While touching and kissing, they forget about everything around them. Both know that after today nothing will be like before. "We shouldn't have done that. You're married. It shouldn't have happened. Nayuki rants while Batsuma simply enjoys the sight of her naked body running in circles. Knowing that the distressed woman won't stop anytime soon, he tries to comfort her. He pulls her into a hug and whispers soothingly, "Shush, honey, if it helps you, my wife died childbirth about a month ago." He really enjoys feeling her little body pressed against him. "Why did you never say anything? I couldn't even tell that you were hurt. Because when I'm with you, I'm always happy. Furthermore, as a clan head I've to stay strong and can't show any weakness. Tears are not allowed, a ninja never cries. I think that showing emotions is strength. Suma, are you really alright? Of course. I've got you and my boys. You've become my son a long time ago, Yuki. I love you." Tears of happiness stream down her face. "Love you too, Suma. I just feel bad. What about your boys? As long as nothing important happens, you'll stay here. I don't want the clan to judge you." She smiles and snuggles back into his arms. "You're really the medicine for my broken heart. What would I do without you? What would Shikaku say if he saw me like this? His strong, strict and serious leader behaving like a teenager in love," thinks Batsuma to himself while studying the young woman in his arms. Her rhythmic breathing is getting him a little tired. He smiles and decides to take a nap himself. When he wakes up he can hear stones skipping across the river. Immediately he is on high alert. He searches for the cause of the sound only to see Nayuki throwing stones. He frowns, she has shinobi training. But how? She lives the life of a civilian and has no clan. Maybe some wounded shinobi taught her something? "Oh, you're awake. Did I wake you?" Nayuki greets him cheerfully. "No, but would you mind enlightening me? How you got shinobi training?" "I don't know what you're talking about." She tries to deny Batsuma's accusation weakly. "Nayuki, don't you dare lie into my face, young woman." Batsuma growls at her in anger and grabs her wrist. I'm sorry. My father taught me some things so that I could protect myself at least a little bit." Nayuki nearly whimpers under his cold stare. "Tell me, who is your father? What clan does he belong to?" "His name was Minato. He never told his last name. I got my hair color from him." She smiles fondly at the memory of her father, never stopping trembling of fear. "Oh, he's so mad. Why did I have to make such a stupid mistake in the first place? Even if it can cause more problems for me later on, I can't tell him that I'm from the future where young shinobi get trained in academies and about my teachers. My mother died childbirth. I was a long time pretty much alone after my father didn't come back or died. Forgive me, but I can't tell you the truth, Suma." Carefully he takes a glance at her lover, just in time to see his eyes soften and his anger fleeing his. "That's pretty sad. Forgive my prying, but that means that you don't know what happened to your father or which clan he belonged to." "It's alright. I don't know, I simply assumed that he didn't want me to live in his clan if he never took me there. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I was afraid of your reaction. I feared you would accuse me of being a spy or something." Batsuma watches Nayuki for any sign that she is lying but can't detect anything. "What did your father teach you?" She smiles and begins to tell him about her skills. "For one, I'm a sensor type. My chakra natures are Fuuten and Suiten. I can use chakra blades. My father's taijutsu style the Kitsune Fist and some ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. My genjutsu is acceptable. Oh, and I can summon foxes." In attempt to reach the toads she reverse summoned herself into the realm of foxes because of the after effects of Kurama's chakra and became their summoner. "Are you serious? That's not just a little," states Batsuma in disbelief, "so care for a spar? If you go easy on me." She grins at him cheekily. Batsuma's mood brightens. "Great, I want to see how strong you are. First blood wins and we are going to use only taijutsu." They exchange some rather dangerous blows. While Batsuma is impressed with Nayuki's prowess, Nayuki is enjoying herself immensely. She's happy to finally spar again. She hadn't noticed how much she missed to spar with someone. The last 2 years she kept her body in shape and meditated a lot. It's good to spar again. Oh, how much I missed this. She's really amazing. There are even a few things that I can learn from her, but she still has a long way before she can even dream about beating me in a taijutsu fight. But still I have to be careful. I don't know if she lied to me. If she's a spy, even if he doesn't want to believe that she could possibly betray him, he knows that they're shinobi, living to deceive. Making up his mind to observe her quickly, he brings her to the floor in a quick motion. He don't let her time for defense before he restricts her and finally tells her to yield. "You win. It's exciting to fight with you. We should do that more often. Yes, we should definitely do that, but Tsuma tells her while simply smiling at her. He loves her attitude and would like to stay longer, but he has to return to the clan and think about what happened today. I'm sorry, Yuki, but I have to go now. With one last kiss he disappears via Shunshin. Months fly by and their sparring sessions became routine. But Tsuma is happy to have found Nayuki that day and decided to save her. Now he loves her with all his heart. However, today is different. Nayuki felt a bit ill the last weeks. Today she decided to go to Ray ask him to confirm her suspicion. Ray, could you help me out? I want to confirm my suspicion. Sure, what is it about? Nayuki runs down the path to the river. But Tsuma and she agreed to meet there. Tsuma, we have to talk, she shouts. But Tsuma seems confused by her serious and happy tone but decides to wait for her to explain it to him. How'd I tell you? I'm going to be a mom, Tsuma. I'm pregnant. But Tsuma's eyes widen. Why, you're pregnant? I am. I was a little ill the last weeks and as I didn't get my period again, I already suspected it but went to Ray for confirmation anyway. It turns out that I'm really pregnant. What do I do? I can't let you stay here. If someone discovers that you're with my child, especially the Uchiha, you're dead meat. But Tsuma murmurs frantically. I believe that I have to take you back to the clan. Is that all right for you? Nayuki looks at him uncertain, and then smiles weak. I guess there is no other way, right? It's just too dangerous. I know that it's for our safety, but what about your sons? Aren't they going to be mad? She asks looking at him afraid. I know for a fact that I wouldn't like that. But Tsuma gives her a reassuring smile before he tells her, it's going to be all right. Don't worry too much. Hashirama will like you. Tobarama is only 4, he won't really understand it, and Kawarma is just a little baby for him. You're always going to be his mom, so your youngest is called Kawarama? Yeah, didn't I tell you? Anyway, my boys will need a mother. You know that I really love you, right? She looks at him oddly while answering slowly, I'm still not convinced that the boys will accept me that easily. And of course I know that. Why do you ask? He sighs and explains her that inside the clan walls he isn't the free man she knows. He has to keep on a strong mask and has to make terrible decisions. Finally he looks at her and says, I just wanted to warn you. When do you want me to move into the Senju compound? I'd prefer as soon as possible. I need to make preparations for your arrival, therefore I'd say in about 2 days. Is that all right with you? Better than right away, but still a bit too soon. Ray, thank you for letting me stay, tells Nayuki her friend. He looks at her and smiles. So it's time to say goodbye, huh? He asks her. He already suspected that she'll leave soon. No man would let his woman stay with another, especially when she's with his child. Hi, I'm going to stay with the man who got me pregnant. Tell me, Nayuki, is he from a clan? She looks at him and nods. He smiles at her and explains, if that's what you want, I won't stay in your way. Therefore promise me to stay safe, I promise. You stay safe too. They hug before they part ways. Good luck with your new path, Nayuki. I'm ready, Tsuma. Let's go. They are sprinting through the woods when Tsuma decides to educate her about formal manners at his clan. When we reach my kinsman you'll have to address me with Tsuma, in private it doesn't matter. My kinsmen address me with Tsuma-sama, and as soon as word is spread that you are my woman, they'll address you with Nayuki-sama or Nayuki-hime. I hope you can accept that. It's policy, isn't it? So I'll have to accept it. It could be worse. They could stop calling me by my name and refer to me as Tsuma's woman. Tsuma smiles at her and tells her playfully, I can't promise you anything. Nayuki looks at him wide-eyed. You. Bastard, asshole, idiot? Idiot. Thanks for the suggestions, you're welcome. But Tsuma-sama, who's she? Moreover, why is she allowed to disrespect you in such a way? After those words Nayuki registers in bewilderment that she hadn't realized they had company now. Moving her gaze she watches the newcomer interacting with her lover. The man has short, black hair. His blue eyes are narrowed as he reports to his clan head. The man is also wearing a seemingly standard armor. However, his armor is, instead of red like Tsuma's, a deep midnight blue. Shikaku, this is Nayuki. She's my lover. However, that's not important at the moment. What is the situation with the Uchiha? Is the fight still going on? No, we had to flee the battlefield. They overran our forces and forced us to retreat. But Tsuma looks displeased into the front and questions about their losses. In overall half our men fell. The The survivors are mostly critically hurt. We can expect a reduce of shinobi by another third if nothing is done. We need a lot more medical supplies and fast. Alright, as soon as we're back, arrange for a team of 20 men to get the medical supplies. Our medics have to focus on the wounded so they're to stay at the compound, understood? Hi, but Tsuma-sama, moving her focus from the now-named Shikaku, Nayuki looks at her lover. In front of Nayuki stands now a man similar to Lady Tsunade, a man who has the lives of his men resting on his shoulders. A strong shinobi worth looking up to, and Nayuki can't help herself. She has to admire the man she fell in love with even more. I don't want to interrupt your important discussion, but I can supply some herbs and medicines if you want. Ray gave me some of his. Both men look at the woman beside them. They had totally forgotten about her. If it's alright for you, it would be a great help. It's about lives. Lives are more important than some petty attachments. She smiles at the men beside her. Thank you, Nayuki. It helps a lot. Looking at the gates of the compound in the near distance, but Tsuma decides to address his lover once again. It's going to be a bit chaotic at the compound. Just keep out of the shinobi's way, alright? But Tsuma warns his lover, waiting for her to answer. Will do, Nayuki answers short. Satisfied with his lover's response, he moves on to the black-haired male next to him. Shikaku, you already know what to do. Hi. After their brief conversation, they enter the Senju compound. But Tsuma was right, it's chaotic here. Shinobi running around, women crying for their loved ones, and everyone wants to know what they're going to do in the future. Watching the scene, Nayuki sees sweating and obviously overworked healer running around. She is so focused on the scene before her that she nearly missed as Tsuma turns to Shikaku and her, Shikaku, do me a favor and take Nayuki to the main house. Nayuki, wait there, my boys should be there too. Oh, and Nayuki, give Shikaku the medical supplies you got, alright? I should be with you rather soon. Shikaku bows to Tsuma and turns back to Nayuki, let's go Nayuki-heim. He leads her away from the gate and into the direction of the clan head's house, if you could call it that. Nayuki would call it a mansion. Hanabi, Shikaku shouts as soon as he enters the house. Is that you, Shikaku? Asks the melodic voice of a young woman who is holding a little, brown-haired baby. Her own black hair falls down in waves until it reaches her hips. Her sky-blue eyes have already fixed on the newcomer next to Shikaku. Yes, Hanabi. This is Nayuki-heim, she will stay here. But Tsuma-sama will explain it as soon as he comes back. Nayuki-heim is to be trusted and treated with respect. Till later, Imo Udo. I wish a good day, Nayuki-heim. A small bow and he leaves to take care of his tasks. Nayuki smiles at the woman in front of her. Hello, it's nice to meet you. Like Shikaku said, my name is Nayuki, nice to meet you, too. Although it was already said, my name is Hanabi. Would you mind telling me why my brother called you Nayuki-heim? Nayuki begins to fidget under the other woman's stare. Well, I'm with Tsuma. As in sleeping with him? Hanabi asks the younger-looking woman shamelessly. A deep purple blush appears on Nayuki's face. After a short pause, Nayuki confirms the older woman's question by answering, yes, I'm even pregnant. You're, oh my god, Hanabi looks at her shocked. How long has that been going on? I don't have to answer that, right? While both women are talking, a young white-haired child enters the hallway. At first he only observes them. However, he decides to make his presence known rather soon as he asks, Hana-chan, who's she? Hanabi turns to the boy and tries nervously to find the right words. Tobarama-kun, she's. You're Tobarama-kun? It's nice to meet you. My name is Nayuki and I'm going to stay with you and your family. So, I hope we can get along, Nayuki tells the young boy. It's awkward to look at the second Hokage and know that you're going to raise him and give birth to one of his brothers. Hopefully he isn't as observant as child as he is as an adult. She smiles at him and waits for him to finish his observation. You're going to be our new mom? Both women seem surprised at the young boy's statement. Deciding that it won't lead anywhere if she lies to him, she answers nervously, I think so. It's alright if you don't like it. I would never force you to like me and I'd never dare to replace your mother. I won't accept you as my mother, but I'll give you a chance as our caretaker. Nayuki grins at him before giving him a long hug. That's all I'm asking for, let go of me. I'm not some teddy bear, he shouts, very embarrassed. Hanabi looks at the strange scene before her. The young and antisocial Tobarama is struggling in a woman's hug. It looks ridiculous. Lady, who are you and why are you trapping my brother in a death hug? A confused brunette boy suddenly asks from the door. Never letting go of Tobirama, Nayuki looks over to the boy and answers, "You must be Hashirama. My name's Nayuki and I'll be staying with you from now on. Therefore, let's get along, sure. Does that mean that you're going to be our mom?" Hashirama asks her, now rather exited. A bit perplexed, she answers him with a short nod. "That's awesome. Can you cook?" Father couldn't cook to save his life and Hanabi's all the same. They're always poisoning us. All occupants blink at the boy, who realizes his mistake, before Hanabi walks over to Nayuki, forces the baby she was holding into Nayuki's arms and begins to chase Hashirama around the house. Nayuki smiles at the baby in her arms before turning to Tobirama. "Do I assume right, when I believe that I'm holding Kawurama in my hands?" "Yes, he's the youngest of us. Well, in a few months he's not the youngest anymore." Tobirama eyes the woman in front of him suspicious. Nayuki brushes across her tummy unconscious before she turns back to the boy by her side. "Say, do you want to cook together? I can teach you a bit. It could come in handy on long-term missions after all." "Sure." At the kitchen, Nayuki places Kawurama at the floor near his toys. Afterwards she straightens and turns to Tobirama. "Now, what do you want to cook?" Nayuki asks him. Tobirama looks at her and thinks, "I don't know. I let you decide." She regards him with a thoughtful look. "Do you like miso ramen? I've never eaten ramen before." "Really? Blasphemy. That's the food of gods." "Alright, then let's cook some miso ramen." Nayuki begins to look through the kitchen for the needed ingredients. After some time she has found everything she needs. "Tobirama, do you mind cutting the vegetables? However, you have to be careful with the knife." "Got it. I'll be careful." She gives Tobirama the vegetables he needs to cut before beginning to prepare the broth. They work together in silence. Tobirama decides that he likes cooking. After all, he can taste the broth and eat some of the vegetables while preparing. After some time he stops cutting the greens and looks at Nayuki. "Have you ever gone on missions before? Because you said that cooking will come in handy on some?" Nayuki pauses now too and turns to the boy next to her. He's too observant. "Well, I'll tell a simple lie he should believe. I mean, I can't tell him about my experience from the future." "No, but your father explained your mission system to me. He said that on long-term missions his shinobi stay away from villages to avoid enemy contact, and therefore, it is practical when there is at least one that can cook on each team." After her brief explanation, Tobirama nods accepting and turns his attention back to the greens in front of him. Because cutting is rather easy, he begins to get careless, ending up cutting into his hand. "Ouch, that hurts," the white-haired boy calls out. Immediately tears run down his cheeks and Nayuki rushes to his aid. "Did you cut yourself, Tobi? Come, you have to show me." There, let me look at it." Nayuki soothes the wailing boy. She inspects his hand and decides that he isn't hurt too badly. He's most probably crying because he's surprised. She takes his hand into hers and starts to use one of her few medical ninjutsu to close the little cut. Tobirama slowly calms down and watches his wound healing in fascination. Still amazed, he looks at his now fully healed hand. "How did you do that?" "I can use some minor medical ninjutsu." "That's pretty cool, you know," he tells her while acting totally out of character. Soon he gets his act back together. Suddenly they hear someone enter the kitchen behind them. When they turn around, they come face to face with Batsuma. Tobirama gets up to tell his father about his little accident and how Nayuki helped him. Batsuma's eyes harden as he looks at the woman before him. Feeling slightly betrayed that she didn't trust him enough to tell him about her medical knowledge, he accuses her. "Yuki? You never mentioned that you were a medic nin." She looks at him apologetically and answers, "I didn't tell you because my knowledge is rather limited. I know about 3 to 5 techniques and have a little bit of knowledge of herbs. Well, what I learned in the last 2 years. Sorry I didn't tell you, Suma." His eyes soften at her guilty face. "It's alright. Would you mind helping out at the infirmary sometime? You could extend your knowledge. Our clan is famous for our enormous medical knowledge." "That would be great, Suma." Nayuki answers her lover. "Great. Well, then what's for dinner? I could smell this wonderful aroma already at the front door." "Miso ramen," says Tobirama when he returns back to cutting the remaining vegetables. "Ramen? Didn't know they could smell that good. Are you discriminating the food of gods?" "Suma, I'm disappointed. Nayuki states playfully while trying to keep a disappointed look on her face. Needlessly to say, she fails miserably. But Tsuma and her break into a laughing fit. Now that I think about it, where's Hashirama? Shouldn't he be here? But Tsuma asks Nayuki and Tobarama. Nayuki looks at him and tells him, well, your son made a grave mistake some hours ago. What kind of mistake? He was brutally honest about your and Hanabi's cooking skills. Hanabi should be chasing him around somewhere. But Tsuma sighs, slightly embarrassed because of his son's actions, and thinks, sometimes Hashirama is such an idiot. Some weeks later, Nayuki wakes up alone on her futon. Unconsciously she runs her hand along her growing belly. It's still in the middle of the night. Suddenly her kunoichi instincts kick in. She can feel 6 unfamiliar chakra signatures heading towards the sleeping wing. She knows for a fact that she is familiar with all their guards. An attack. Immediately she slips out of her room and runs to the boys. Hashirama sits on the ground and shivers violently. He knows it too. Then she turns to search for Tobarama and realizes that Hashirama must have hid his brothers inside their cupboard. It's alright, I'll protect you and your brothers, she reassures the young boy in front of her before she turns around to face the door. They don't have to wait long till 6 Uchiha shinobi rush in. They attack immediately, however Nayuki holds her ground. She dodges their strikes and downs 2 of them fast. 2 of the others rush at her as distraction while the others wait for their chance to attack again. One of her attackers hurts her at the shoulder. Even though she is in a lot of pain now, she doesn't lose focus. She knows that any mistake on her part would end in the death of her and the boys. The will to protect the boys numbs her pain and lets her ignore the wound for now. With another strike, Nayuki manages to kill a 3rd shinobi before they corner her. In the corner of her eye she can see Hashirama prepare to attack. She waits for him to make his move, never letting her opponents out of her eyes. Then she rushes at the remaining 2 who are caught by surprise because of Hashirama's brave attack. Quickly she disposes of them. When she turns to Hashirama, she sees that he defeated his opponent. Soon she realizes that this had to be Hashirama's first kill because the boy is standing completely still. Overwhelmed by his feelings, Hashirama isn't able to move before he sacks to the ground, losing his conscience. Nayuki can catch him before he actually hits the ground and places him carefully at his futon. Afterwards she goes over to the cupboard to check up on the other boys. Tobirama's eyes widen in horror when the door opens. However, he relaxes as soon as he comes face to face with Nayuki. He sighs in relief. Is it over? I think so. Are you hurt? No, good. I can feel Tsuma and some guards coming our way. Nayuki helps Tobarama out and takes Kawarama in her arms while Tobarama runs over to Hashirama. He's alright, he's just unconscious. Tobarama knees down to his brother and cries. I was so afraid. I thought we were going to die. Nayuki puts Kawarama into his crib, moves over to the older brothers, sits down and pulls Tobarama into a hug. Soothingly she moves her fingers through his hair. But Tsuma has finally finished fighting his last opponent. How they got into the compound is beyond him. But Tsuma-sama. It seems that some Uchiha passed into the living areas. Someone said they got into the main house, but Tsuma's eyes widen as his blood runs cold. No, please, let them be alright. Immediately he turns and sprints back to his house. 5 shinobi follow after him. Shikaku is one of them. Afraid for the good friends he found in Nayuki and the boys, he extends his senses. In panic he searches for any chakra signature. Finally he can feel all 4 of them. He lets out the breath he didn't know he was holding. But Tsuma-sama. He addresses his leader. I can feel their chakra signatures in the boys' bedroom. Nayuki Haim is with them. Are there any others? I can't feel anyone else. Everyone can see, but Tsuma relax after he got this important piece of information. Good. Soon they arrive at the room. All swallow as they realize that Nayuki and the boys were attacked by 6 enemy shinobi. Nayuki must have fought all of them at the same time. But Tsuma assumes guilty. How could we let 6 of them get past the battlefield? They look at Nayuki, who is sitting next to an unconscious Hashirama with a crying Tobarama in her arms. She soothes the wailing boy the best she can while they can see that she clearly is fighting with pain. But Tsuma searches for her injury and finally finds the bleeding shoulder. Slowly he walks up to her. Are the boys alright? Is your injury dangerous? The boys are alright. It's a simple stab wound. Nothing major, although it hurts like a bitch. letting his eyes drift over to Hashirama, but Tsuma looks at his son in pity. He knows that this is just the beginning of his son's fighting career. Happy to know that his family is safe, he pulls Nayuki and Tobarama into a bone-crushing hug. Next morning. Today Nayuki has a checkup with a healer to check if her shoulder healed perfectly fine and to begin refining her medical skills. The way to the infirmary of the compound is unfamiliar to her, so she has to ask her way through the crowd. Most of the shinobi congratulate her to her fight the day before. Others are a bit disturbed by her strength even though she is an outsider and pregnant. Along her way she gets greeted by bystanders with bows and a simple, Nayuki-heim. Finally reaching her destination, she knocks at the door before entering and asking for help. Soon a healer comes up to her and inspects her shoulder. Sometimes he has to shove some strands of his blonde hair that escaped his ponytail out of his face. His blue eyes search her wounds seriously. After some time he notes that her wound is nicely healed and lets her show off her medical knowledge, only to note that her medical skills are above his expectations. He smiles at her and asks if she wants a checkup on her pregnancy too. Curious as to how it is done, she answers him positive. The healer positions his hands on her stomach and performs some medical ninjutsu she has never seen before. It seems your baby is very healthy. It didn't suffer any damage because of your fight yesterday. Nayuki releases a breath of relief. Even if she hadn't suspect any damage, it is still a relief to know it for certain. That's good. Are you going to educate me in medical ninjutsu or do I have to go to someone else? He looks at her and smiles. That's up to you, Nayuki-heim. My name is Taiga. Then I'm totally content with you as my teacher, Taiga. Where do you want to start? Well, I'd start by you telling me all you know about medic nins. By the time the sun goes down she enters their house totally exhausted. Taiga is a good teacher, though she suspects that he is a bit of a sadist. Man, he could have been easier on me. I doubt that it was a bad decision to have him as a teacher, but... Well, let's see what the boys are up to. When she enters the kitchen she can see Tobarama cutting vegetables and Hashirama looking after a pot. Hanabi is sitting on the floor taking care of Kawarama. She is the first to notice the return of Nayuki. Welcome back, Nayuki-heim. You look exhausted, do you need anything? Nayuki smiles at her friend. No, thank you. That's very nice of you. Tobarama, Hashirama, what's for dinner? Hashirama turns to her and grins. Welcome back. Tobarama and I can only cook ramen to an acceptable rate, so we started cooking some. Could you help us? Tobarama nods to confirm his brother's words. In the last weeks Tobarama began to help her in the kitchen frequently. He really came to enjoy the wonders of cooking. Nayuki steps over to the pot and tries the broth Hashirama made. It's good, Hashirama. I'd just add a little more salt. Say, Tobarama, are you finished soon? Hi, in a second. By the time they finished cooking, but Tsuma returns. He looks at them and smiles tiredly. Hanabi already retreated to her house half an hour before. Long day? Nayuki addresses her lover. Hi, there was an ambush at one of our teams. The Uchiha got them good. We couldn't save any, that's bad. Was the mission near the borders or was there another reason for an Uchiha team to be nearby? But Tsuma smiles at his lover's interest. They were hired nearby, so it was entirely bad luck for our teams to meet. Though, I believe that there is going to be a big fight with the Uchiha soon. They have begun to up their control near the borders and more teams are stationed there too. Seeing the worry in Nayuki's eyes, he promises her that Hashirama is still too young for going out on the battlefield and that he would start with missions before fighting at the front lines. Nayuki looks at him and says, I know that Hashirama won't fight at the front lines soon. I'm worried about you, Tsuma. Promise me to take care, will you? Of course, I will. But for now let's have dinner. Together they set up the table and begin to eat their meals. The boys tell their parent about their day and Nayuki enlightens them on hers. After some time one thought crosses Nayuki's mind, something she never thought of before. Tsuma, is there a reason why you don't employ some of the clan's women to cook, when you employ some to clean the house? To take care of the boys when we don't have time and even to do the shopping? But Tsuma looks at her and asks a little frightened, don't you want to cook? Is it too much work for you? It's not that, Tsuma. I like spending some time cooking together with the boys, I was only curious. A bit ashamed but Tsuma admits, our last cook died a bit before you came into the compound and because I was always busy, I forgot about hiring someone new. Then you began cooking and I simply loved your cooking so much that I didn't want someone else to cook. Nayuki stares at him in disbelief before her eyes fill with tears and she stutters, That's so nice of you. I am so happy that you appreciate my meals. She tackles Bitsuma and kisses him lovingly. Hashirama turns away and calls out, Ew. Don't do that in front of us, while Tobirama simply continues his bowl of ramen and Kawarama gurgles happily. Bitsuma and Nayuki look at each other and laugh at Hashirama's antics. At least for now they can act a little carefree. Nayuki has lessons every day now. Even Tobirama started with his training and Hashirama is training extra hard now that the day of his first mission nears. He's terrified and even though he didn't show it at first, he was very happy when Nayuki talked with him about his first kill. He needed that talk, now that he's going to face more opportunities where he'll be forced to kill. A terrifying future for a nearly 6-year-old indeed. But Tsuma is most of the time fighting at the front lines, now that another all-out war broke out between Uchiha and Senju. Everyday dead bodies get buried and injured shinobi reach the compound. Nayuki is already helping as an active healer with smaller wounds. She's horrified how terrible a normal life in a clan in the warring states is. She has read about the crimes of this time but living through it is an entirely different thing. She nearly feels like she's fighting in the 4th Shinobi War again. No wonder Hashirama wanted to build Konoha. This time is not for children. How can someone even send their children out to fight willingly? Nayuki thinks after tending to a 7-year-old shinobi. The boy is terrified but tries to hold back his terror, cause a shinobi doesn't cry. Soothingly Nayuki pulls him into a hug and whispers, it's all right to cry. I won't tell anybody. The boy breaks out in tears and Nayuki can feel a tear running down her cheek too. Soon Hashirama is going to be one of these terrified children, who are fighting for survival outside the compound. After some time the boy falls asleep. She arranges him comfortably before leaving to tend to another patient. Hashirama smiles at his family before looking at his cake again. It's such a great cake. His mother sure knows how to make him happy. The cake has the form of a tree and is coated entirely with chocolate. Together they enjoy this wonderful treat before he gets to open his presents. His father got him some new ninja tools, kunai and shuriken mainly. Tobirama gives him a book about medicines and his mother tells him that she's going to teach him a jutsu her father invented. But Tsuma looks at his Yuki and asks, what kind of jutsu are you talking about? She smiles at him and tells them, it's called the Rasengan. If you want I can show it to you later on a training ground. But Tsuma nods while Hashirama calls out, oh yes, please show us, will you? Is it awesome? Is it strong? Nayuki grins at him and tells with pride, it's an A-ranked jutsu and horrifying strong. The family and some curious clan members are assembled at the training grounds now. Hanabi and Shikaku come up to them and ask, what's going on? Is there going to be a spar? Hashirama excitedly shouts, no, Ka-sama is going to show me an A-ranked jutsu she promised to teach me. Both look at Nayuki surprised, you are a kunoichi? My father taught me a little bit. Don't sell yourself short, Nayuki. You are pretty good, but Tsuma assures her with pride. She beams at him, thanks, but now I think I owe someone a demonstration of a certain jutsu, don't I? She walks some steps away from them before bringing her hand in front of her. Within seconds a small chakra ball appears in her hand. To show off its strength she rams it into a tree. Without much effort she cuts through it. All present jaw drop. No one really expected something this strong from a simple ball. Hashirama begins to dance about how awesome the jutsu is. He's going to learn and Tsuma looks at her in awe. How long did it take you to master that technique? I learned it in a week and mastered it within about 3 months. Now it's official, his lover is plainly awesome. But Tsuma looks at Shikaku with a serious expression. I assign Hashirama to your team, Shikaku. Therefore, your next mission is going to be an easier one and far away from the Uchiha border. I hope that's acceptable for you. Of course, but Tsuma-sama. We're going to take care of your son, our clan heir, good. Look, Ka-sama, I did it. I made the Rasengan. Hashirama shouts excited. Nayuki smiles at him and nods. You sure did. Tobirama looks at his brother in awe and silently hopes that Nayuki-chan is going to teach him that jutsu too. Suddenly Tsuma's voice sounds clearly across the training ground. You did well, son. It's good to know that you have such a strong jutsu in your repertoire now. Especially, because I've assigned you to your team. Shikaku is your team leader and your first mission is tomorrow. Hashirama pales visibly and looks at Nayuki for reassurance. She smiles at him and nods. You'll do great, Hashirama. I know you will. Hashirama seems to find his confidence again and smiles. You're right. I'll give my best. The next day Nayuki eyes Hashirama worriedly. Do you have everything you need, Hashirama? Nayuki asks worriedly. I think so, he answers her unsure. Your father said it's going to be a short mission. Do you have your kunai, shuriken and ninja wire? Do you have some food and water with you? Yep, and I'm already wearing my armor. He trails off. Nayuki smiles at her son and says, take good care of you. Be always alert and come back in one piece. He hugs Nayuki and says, I will, before taking off to meet his team and start his first mission. Finally we return to the compound. I don't want to kill anymore and that was just my first mission. I feel terrible, so dirty. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to forgive me. I hope I don't meet my family when I return. I don't want to face anybody right now, thinks Hashirama as they near the Senju compound. When we return, we'll have to report to Batsuma-sama. That means that you'll have to come with us because the team always reports together. Understood, Hashirama? Shikaku addresses his young charge. Hashirama looks at him and nods. Shikaku nearly sighs of all the things that could have happened. It had to be that. Especially bothers Shikaku the fact that Hashirama's eyes now hold that shadow in them. There is no innocent child in front of him. It's a shinobi who killed several times and knows that he'll have to do it again. A child who got confronted with the uncensored cruel life of a shinobi. After a short knock at the door, Shikaku and his team enter the study of their leader. Batsuma-sama, they say as they bow. Ah, Shikaku, give me a short version of the events of your mission. To put it plainly, it was a total disaster. The mission itself wasn't that bad. However, we got ambushed by a scout team of the Uchiha. They seemed to be informed that our heir would be on this mission. We could kill them all but Jura died. I've got him sealed inside a storage scroll. Anyway, Hashirama fought amazingly good considering that this was his first mission. Main focus obviously laid with him as they knew him to be the heir. He nearly died but saved himself by using the jutsu Nayuki Heim taught him, Shikaku reports dutifully. Batsuma looks at his Sun who's facing the floor the whole time. He's avoiding contact. I want a written report by tomorrow and Shikaku arrange the burial for our fallen comrade. Great work. You're dismissed. As soon as Shikaku dismissed them too, Hashirama runs back to his home. He doesn't bother to greet his mother and brothers. No, he's in no mood to do that. Hot tears run down his face and guilt surfaces, robbing him of his breath. He runs into his rooms and locks the door. He wants to be left alone. The memory of the mission haunts him. He let Jura die. He let Juri sacrifice himself for him. He still sees Jura jumping in front to the Uchiha shinobi who tried to kill Hashirama from behind while he was distracted. The blade ran through him like he was butter. Jura died only to protect him. Another single child, she doesn't have any siblings to console her. He feels terrible, like trash. How could I let that happen? I stole Jura's chance to see his daughter grow up and his daughter is now an orphan. I'm a monster. He buries his head in his knees and cries alone. He cries until he has no tear left to shed and falls asleep. Nayuki hears Hashirama enter the house and gets up to greet him. To her surprise, the boy immediately heads for his bedroom. What happened out there? Why are you avoiding contact to us, Hashirama? Nayuki thinks as she tries to make sense. After a minute or two she feels like an idiot. Of course, something must have gone wrong on his mission. Silently she heads for Hashirama's room where she can hear her boy hiccuping. She tries to open the door only to find out that he locked it. Sadly she looks at the door and decides to give him time. He will come to us when he's ready to talk about it. Oh Hashirama, what happened to you out there, my lovely boy? In the evening Hashirama still hasn't come out of his room. Batsuma wants to drag the boy down for dinner but Nayuki can convince him to let the boy alone for now. Tobarama can feel the tense situation and decides to not ask about it. He knows it has something to do with Hashirama seeing as his brother doesn't bother to show up for his meal. Kawarama, as suspected, doesn't notice any of this with his baby senses. He giggles and blabbers like always. The next morning Nayuki goes up to Hashirama's room again only to be denied entrance again. She knows that she can't let this go on and decides to question Shikaku about the events on their mission. She makes her way over to get the answers she needs if she wants to help Hashirama with whatever he's fighting at the moment. At Shikaku's house she knocks and is let in without a single question. She waits in the living room for a short time before Shikaku turns up. Nayuki-hime, what can I do for you? He questions her, already guessing what this is about. Thank you for your time, Shikaku. I know you only returned from your mission yesterday, but I need you to tell me what happened on your mission. Hashirama has locked himself in his room and won't get out. I don't know what to do because I don't even know what is bothering him. Please, you have to tell me. Well, it was like this. On her way back, Nayuki is horrified. She knows now why Hashirama isolated himself, but knows that she can't allow him to go on like this. He has to tell her about the event that stirred so much guilt in his little child heart. Oh my baby, I feel so bad for letting you go on this mission. Please, let me in to talk. Please. In front of his door she halts for a moment before trying to open the door again. This time, however, the door isn't locked anymore. She silently opens the door and peeks inside. Hashirama is lying on his futon crying and whimpering even in his sleep. She walks over and takes his head into her lap. Carefully she moves her fingers through his thick hair. It seems to soothe the sleeping boy a bit. The boy stirs and wakes. He looks at his mother figure in shock before his eyes flicker to the door and back to her again. I was worried, Hash. Please, don't lock yourself up like that. You can always talk to me, you know. Tears fill his eyes as he tells her, I am a monster. I let one of my comrades die to survive myself. I such a coward. No, Jura wanted for you to be saved. You didn't let Jura die. He decided to save you, even though he knew he'd pay with his life and was willing to lay it down if it protects you. You should see him as a hero and get yourself together. You dishonor his memory by stating shit like that. You should feel grateful and live to let his death not be in vain. Do you really think so? But what about his daughter? Hashirama asks her, uncertain. Hi, I do. His daughter is going to live with her aunt, and now come on. I think you didn't get to eat since you came back, did you? No, he answers as he wipes away his tears and smiles at her a tiny smile. Nayuki is currently playing with Tobarama, who hid, somewhere, in the gardens. Of course, she already knows where. She isn't a censor for nothing. As always, she draws the game out longer than needed and decides to look for him at some random places to hide. Who would have thought that one day I'm going to play hide and seek with the second Hokage? She can't help but smile at that thought. After some time, Nayuki decides to find Tobarama. She sneaks up to the bushes and looks down at the hiding 4-year-old. Found you, Toby, she chirps happily. A groan and a mumble of, oh man, how did you find me so fast, Nayuki-chan, are her answer. Luck, she answers the boy. I don't believe you. If you want me to answer, you have to tell me how you know when your father sneaks up to you every time. I don't know. I just feel it. That means that you're a censor like me. We can find and identify people around us by their chakra signatures. Do I learn how to control that from my teacher? Tobarama asks her curiously. I don't think so. Do you want to learn how to do it? Yes. Do you know how to do that, Nayuki-chan? Well, you should start by trying to feel farther away. When you have a decent area where you can feel chakra signatures, try to identify them. Let's see how far you can feel. You know what my chakra signature feels like, right? Yeah, I do. What about it, Nayuki-sensei? Sensei? Well, if you insist. Close your eyes, concentrate on me and tell me as soon as you can't feel me anymore. Alright, I'm ready. Nayuki smiles at her charge. Great, Toby. You did great. Some more training and you're going to be quite a censor. Suddenly she can feel pain in her womb. Surprised, she stumbles and grabs onto Tobarama's shoulder. He looks at her confused. Soon it changes into being afraid as he can see her grimacing in pain. After another wave of pain, she can feel that she's getting wet between her legs, meaning one thing, her water broke. Nayuki knows that she can't get back to the house on her own anymore. Toby, I need you to get some help. I'm going into labor. Tobarama nods and runs to the next chakra signature he can feel. Oto-sama, Nayuki-chan is going into labor. But Tsuma looks at his son immediately and asks, where is she? In the garden. But Tsuma turns to the young shinobi standing beside him and tells him, Yahiko, get me a midwife. The young man answers short, hi, Bustuma-sama, and runs off while Batsuma sprints into the garden. Batsuma paces in front of the room Nayuki is giving birth in. He can hear her cries. Especially because his first wife died in childbirth, he's restless. Hashirama, Tobirama and Hanabi with Kawurama are sitting beside the door. Tobirama looks at his father and asks, "Is she going to be alright?" "I believe so," but Tsuma assures him. After some hours the cry of a child erupts from the room. But Tsuma doesn't wait till he's allowed to go in. He storms in and gets to Nayuki's side. "Are you alright, Yuki?" "Hi, I'm just a bit tired. Can I hold my baby?" The midwife comes over, a little bundle in her arms. She looks at the new parents and tells them, "It's a healthy little baby boy." Nayuki takes her baby into her arms. But Tsuma looks at his smiling lover and child and asks, "Say, Yuki, is it alright to name him Itama?" She glances at him and agrees, "It's a beautiful name." "Well, then, welcome to the family, Itama Senju." Pride shines in his eyes as he watches Nayuki cuddling with their son. Soon Hashirama and Tobirama come in to greet their new baby brother. Even Kawurama, who was brought in by Hanabi, has great interest in his new sibling. He talks to him with his cute baby talk, sometimes even mentioning "mama" or "dada." For the moment they're a happy family, but Nayuki knows every child in this room is going to fight in the war with the Uchihas sooner or later. Hashirama already goes on missions regularly. Tobirama will in about 2 years and Kawurama just a little bit earlier than the baby she just gave birth to. She has no illusions. She knows from her history lessons in the academy that Itama isn't mentioned as a brother of the first Hokages, neither is Kawurama. That means they both die early, fighting against the Uchiha. There is no way around it. No, as a mother she'll refuse to lose her babies that way. Before she lets that happen, she'll even fight at the front line herself. She will change the future. "Say Ka-sama, does Itama do anything other than sleeping and eating all day long?" asks Hashirama bored. Nayuki laughs at her son's dismay. "Itama is still too little to do more. You should know that from Kawurama, Hashi. How come you're so fixed on him doing more? I just hoped you would be different because you were not part of the clan." Nayuki sweat drops. "Are you serious? I'm still human, you know?" Tobirama look at his brother rather disappointed. "But Ka-sama, I want to play and Tobirama is so boring. Why can't they be old enough to play with me?" If you look close enough you can see the tick mark on Tobirama's forehead. Only a tiny one, but Nayuki sees it clearly. She simply laughs. "Yep, it's definitely good to be back at home. The infirmary is not as lively as my boys here. How about you give your brother more credit? If he continues like that he's going to be the better shinobi out of the two of you." Nayuki claims to annoy Hashirama, who in turn immediately denies her words. "There's no way that I'm outdone by my little brother. I train way harder and have to go on missions too." "Oh, you think so? What if I tell you that Tobirama is a little prodigy that has even the advantage of being the best natural censor I meet except for myself?" Tobirama has to fight hard to keep from bursting into laughter as he understands Nayuki's intentions. Oh, just a little more and he's going to burst. It's too much fun messing with Hashirama, thinks Nayuki with a mischief smile on her face. Do you know what they say? Nothing compares to a natural prodigy. Tobirama grins at his brother. Seeing that Hashirama is about to burst, Nayuki smiles a gentle smile and continues, "However, even someone without talent can reach immense highs if they train enough. I'm sure both of you will become amazing shinobi." There you get Tobi. "I'm so awesome. Where did he get that from?" "I never said that." "So, you said that you're bored, right? How about I introduce you to one of my fluffy friends so you can play together?" "What kind of fluffy friend, Ka-sama? So you want to meet him? Alright. Kachiyose no jutsu." After slamming her hand into the floor, the boys watch fascinated as smoke appears out of nowhere and disappears again. Where once was smoke, now sits a little red, fluffy fox. "Hello, Koga. My boys are asking for a playmate. Would you like to play that role? Games? Oh, I love games. What are we going to play? How about hide and seek? I'm the best tracker ever. My name is Koga like Nayuki-ne-san said, and you are?" "I'm Hashirama and that's my brother Tobirama. It's nice to meet you, Koga." "Yeah, a whole lot of games. But first, Ka-san was right, you're really fluffy. Can I touch your fur?" Hashirama asks eagerly. Koga looks rather puzzled but allows it anyway. After some petting and sun, "Ah, your fur is really as fluffy as it looks." Hashirama decides to pick up on their earlier intention and asks, "Are you really that good of a tracker? Let's test it, alright? Come on, Tobi. We have to hide." Soon all three of them disappear through the door, leaving Nayuki alone with the babies. "I guess, we have now time for us," Ha Kawurama, Itama? What do you think, should we go and visit Hanabi-chan? Seeing Kawurama giggle happily while Itama sleeps like a normal baby his age, she decides to go through with her idea. She really wanted to meet her new best friend. A knot forms in her chest at the thought of best friends. She missed them, all of them. Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, Shino, Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Tenten, heck even Lee and Neji. There's no sense in mourning the things that won't come back. I know they would all scold me for doing it. She smiles at the thought of Sakura trying to hit her or Sasuke's nagging comments. Her eyes water at the happy memories invading her mind. I promise I'll create a better future for you. You'll be able to have happy childhoods, I swear. Blinking the tears out of her eyes, she turns to her sons. I have a new family here that needs me and new friends who support me. I'll give my best to do what can be done to prevent the future wars from happening. For my family, my friends and you guys. So please look out for me and help me along my way with all the luck you can find in this rotten world. Let's hope that even here my devil's luck is keeping me alive. Banishing all bad thoughts from her mind, she prepares to visit Hanabi. No bad thoughts now, I can worry about things later. Nayuki is currently nursing Itama and humming a happy tune. Nayuki couldn't be happier. Hanabi is by her side helping her with Kawurama. Did you know that Shikaku is praising Hashirama all the time? He says that he never met a shinobi who did so well at his missions in his age. Nayuki smiles but replaces it soon with a frown. That's good and bad. Hanabi looks confused. How is that bad? It's good because the clan heir should be strong and because his surviving chances are higher this way. On the other hand, other clans will begin to see him as a threat. Therefore, they will try to hunt him down even more. Hanabi smiles at her friend. Nayuki-chan is one of the best mothers and tactical minds I've ever met. Always worrying about the boys and estimating the consequences of their actions. How come she's doing it so naturally? Oh, I'm sure Hashirama-kun can beat them all. Anyway, how is it to have a child? Now it's Nayuki's time to look confused. Why are you curious? Oh, are you by any chance pregnant? Hanabi is getting red immediately, but a small smile is on her lips as she answers, yes, I am. I haven't told my husband yet, but Shikaku already knows it. Who was your husband again? You remember the one with the scar down the cheek? With the blonde hair? The one that looked like he's going to pee *** himself, after I demonstrated the Rasengan. Don't say that, but yes, that one. His name was Tora, right? Hi. I'm sure he's going to be wonderful parents. I can see things like that. Anyway, what do you want to know about pregnancies? How did you know that I was worried? Wait, don't answer. For starters, does everyone get morning sickness and mood swings? Nayuki has to laugh. No, some have it really strong, others don't even feel a change. You can get carvings too. When Tobirama comes back from training, they're still engaged in their conversation. The moment Tobirama sees Nayuki sitting in the living room playing with Kawurama and talking to Hanabi while Itama sleeps, he decides to ask her for help. He doesn't know if she can, but she's a skilled kunoichi. She proved as much. He walks up to her and Kawurama. Nayuki-ka-sama? Do you know about Fuinjutsu? She looks at him surprised. He accepted me as his mother. I'm the mother of the Nidame too now, and answers, I do. I'm a seal master. His mood immediately brightens. Can you teach me? My sensei said that you can make paper bombs and other things with Fuinjutsu. That sounds so cool. So in short, you want to learn about Fuinjutsu because you can create cool explosions, right? Well, I am not so sure I should teach a 4-year-old such a dangerous skill. However, I could teach you calligraphy as a preparation for learning calligraphy later on. Calligraphy is the first step in Fuinjutsu. He nods, smiling eagerly, and fetches paper and ink to show her his skills. Nayuki looks worriedly at Hanabi and asks, do you think it's good to teach Tobirama? Should I tell him a bit of the theory too? I would only dare to tell him the easiest steps of level 1 Fuinjutsu. Hanabi smiles a bit and reassures her. I think it's good to start this early with something so time-consuming. He'll need it on the field. Alright, then I'm going to teach him the steps of level 1 Fuinjutsu mastery. When Tobirama reappears, Hanabi excuses herself and leaves mother and sons alone. Enthusiastic Tobirama shows Nayuki his calligraphy skills. She compliments him with tender eyes and advises him to practice a bit more. After some time he needs to take a break, so Nayuki begins to explain the theory of Fuinjutsu to him. He listens to her every word. Nayuki Ka-san is pretty good at explaining. I don't think I should be able to understand what seals are about this easily. Say, Toby, what do you think about having dinner in the garden today? Tobirama grins at her and nods eagerly. Somehow he allows himself to be a child around her. It's as if he trusts her to not tell his father about it. As if she's his safe haven in this cruel world where children are robbed of their childhood and made into weapons. In her opinion, is Tobirama too advanced and serious for a 4-year-old boy? It's nice to see him so childish once in a while. Well then, we should prepare some bentos. Together they clean up. Nayuki takes both Itama and Kawurama into her arms and carries them into the kitchen with Tobirama tailing her every move. She arranges the boys on their play mat on the floor. Tobirama is already running up to the sink dragging a bag of rice behind him. Nayuki helps him putting the rice into a colander for washing. Nayuki puts a stool in front of the sink, so that Tobirama can easily wash the rice on his own, and moves to prepare the pot to cook it. Quietly Tobirama grumbles about being big enough to reach the sink without something like a stool but uses it anyway. While the rice cooks they prepare everything to make both maki and nigiri sushi. Nayuki, Tobirama and the 2 babies are already in the garden enjoying the last sun when Hashirama and a little later Batsuma come home. Batsuma smiles at the little picnic his lover and son prepared. He really appreciates that Tobirama is picking up cooking so easily. It will come in handy for the boy later. He sits down next to them and together they enjoy their meal. It's delicious. Batsuma tells them with a smile on his face. He's proud of their cooking skills. Maybe I should. Batsuma thinks before taking a piece of sushi and feeds it to his lover and giving her a long kiss. Nayuki grins at him and opens her mouth as a move to show that he should feed her again. It's been some time since we spent some quality time together, Suma and I. Oh, how I missed this side of him, Nayuki thinks in bliss. Hashirama makes a face shouting aloud, ew. While Tobirama is confused why his strict father is behaving so funny. I don't like it. That's not how Otoyu-sama usually behaves. He's always so strict and easily to anger. Oto-sama, Nayuki Ka-sama, why are you behaving so funny? He finally asks. Nayuki smiles at him and answers, you know when 2 persons love each other they can act rather odd sometimes. It only shows that they trust each other very much. You can't always be serious, it would destroy you and you should always show the persons you love that you do so. But Tsuma can only agree, he would have become a bitter man if he hadn't met Yuki. Thank gods, I found her. However, he won't let his guard down that much often and he definitely won't spoil his sons. Not with knowing what future awaits them. Finally Kawurama and Itama are both asleep. The parents kiss their sleeping sons good night and sent the older boys to bed too. Nayuki silently makes her way to their futon. Shortly afterwards Batsuma returns to their room too. He looks at her and sighs. Tomorrow I have to return to the front line. It is said that Tajima is there, then you have to be careful. I don't want to lose you so soon, I won't die. I just wanted to tell you. We are too laid back at the moment. I want that you take Hanabi with you and begin to train again. It is unavoidable that I'll have to send you out for missions but at least not in the next months. I see. Then I'll have to train if I want to survive. Don't worry, you'll be back to strength in no time and while you're on a mission Hanabi will take care of the boys. He assures her and cuddles her to him. For months Nayuki had been training now. Soon she will have to go on her first mission and won't know if she will come back to them. It scares her that she's going to fight in another war. However, the knowledge that she survived the 4th Shinobi War until the end somehow comforts her. Not that it helps her boys but she knows that at least Hashirama and Tobirama survived on their own and for Kawurama and Itama she's going to fight herself. I won't let them die without a fight, she promises herself. Someone clears his throat behind Nayuki. She turns around and looks at Yahiko, the young boy that helped with getting midwives back at Itama's birth. He's one of Batsuma's main messenger. Nayuki Haim, Batsuma-sama wants you to come to his study immediately, the boy tells her. Nayuki nods and smiles at him. Thank you, Yahiko. I'll go there now. She starts walking into the direction of Batsuma's study. Nayuki knocks at the study door and waits for Batsuma to tell her to enter. She doesn't have to wait long. Batsuma looks at her and smiles for a second before sobering again. Good, you are here. Shikaku and I were just discussing his next mission. I want you, Nayuki, to accompany him and his team on this mission. He tells her, you are going to hunt down an Uchiha team that is going on a mission in one of the closer villages. Our informant tells us that the Uchiha team consists of 15 shinobi that want to retrieve an important artifact for their clients. I'm not interested in this artifact. I simply want to reduce their fighting power. This mission should take around 2 weeks, so pack accordingly. Shikaku, you are dismissed. Please inform the members of your squad immediately. Shikaku nods at Bitsuma and bows to his leader and matriarch before leaving them alone. Nayuki looks at Bitsuma uncertainly and asks, "Are you sure that I'm ready for a mission already?" "I'm not sure if I'm prepared enough." Bitsuma stands up from his seat behind the desk and takes his wife into his arms. "I'm sure that you are strong enough for this. Shikaku and Tora told me everything about your progress in training. I'm certain that you are as skilled as you were back when we were training together, or maybe even stronger. You are definitely ready for it. Don't doubt it," he assures her. While moving towards their targets, Nayuki places Hiraishin seals in regular distances. Just in case, she assures herself. It's a long run and she placed about 20 seal on the trees they're passing. Suddenly she spots a rather strong source of chakra not even 3 miles away. She stops. That has to be our enemy. Nayuki looks around her silently calculating their chances. She curses and turns to Shikaku saying, "The team we have to ambush is up ahead. However, we got a problem." "What kind of problem?" Shikaku asks, looking into her masked face. Like child Kakashi, and her hair is bound to a ponytail, trying to sense the problem himself. His sensor abilities aren't as refined as hers and so can't come up with an answer to his question. "The enemy team has more members than we originally thought, and there is someone with a chakra capacity as high as Bitsuma. I presume that Tajima Uchiha is leading the squad himself." His eyes widen. "Shit. Tajima is with them. This must have been set up. We need to retreat immediately. We don't have the strength to stand up to them. We have to hurry. They turned our way. Do you think our informant was influenced by the Sharingan? I don't know, but it's possible. Can you teleport us away, Nayuki-heim?" "I can't teleport everyone, Shikaku. I have to split us into smaller groups to teleport, but other than that I see no problem. I've got a Hiraishin seal not too far away. I suggest getting the children out of here first." Nayuki answers him honest. Shikaku turns to the team with a grave expression. Immediately everyone knows that something is up. "Alright, everyone listen up. Hashirama, Yahiko, Yukimura, get here. Nayuki-heim will teleport you out of here. We are outnumbered and Tajima Uchiha is leading the enemy team. Therefore Nayuki-heim and I decided to retreat by teleporting. First to go are the children within our ranks, which would be you 3. Shikaku commands before asking for the vital information. "Nayuki-heim, how do you plan on returning to us?" "I placed a Hiraishin seal on you," she answers him sheepishly. He stares at her for a second, unbelieving that he didn't realize that she did that before he nods and continues. "Well then, we don't have any time to lose. Everyone retreat. We await you return, Heim." Nayuki nods and grabs for the boys. Within seconds they find themselves in a new location. "I'm going to teleport you once again. Afterwards you continue on back to the compound. Don't turn and try to help us, understood?" She addresses the boys seriously and adds, "Don't worry, Hashirama. I'm sure everything will be alright." All 3 nod before their location changes again. "Ka-sama, there is going to be fighting, isn't there?" Hashirama asks worryingly. Nayuki looks at her son and smile forced. "Yes, we can't avoid a fight with the Uchiha. Continue on into this direction and don't turn around. I'll see you in the compound at the latest." Nayuki answers before disappearing into thin air. When Nayuki appears next to Shikaku, she comes upon a slaughter. Almost all of their men were already killed. Did it take me so long, or did I overestimate the distance between us? Doesn't matter, I have to get the survivors out of here now, Nayuki thinks while observing the scene before her. Shikaku looks at her hopeful. He's banged up pretty much. Out of the corner of her eye she sees a fire jutsu closing up to them, and she begins hand seals before releasing her own attack with a cry of, "Suiden! Bakusu Shuha!" In the last second the attack blocks the incoming flames. Never was she gladder to have mastered Suiden till she could use the water from the atmosphere. She grabs Shikaku and hurries to collect the other survivors. Fast she collects the others using one of her Hiraishin kunai to avoid their attackers. The leader of their attackers grins at her like a maniac. Before she can reach the last living Senju, he moves between her and her target. So, you are one of the more talented Senju worms, huh? Tell me your name, woman, he commands her. Knowing that he won't let her pass to her the last of her comrades, she decides to humor his question, hoping for an opening. She looks into his eyes and answers, Nayuki. The other Uchiha shinobi are beginning to circle them and trap her group between them. Nayuki Senju? I never heard of you. Why would Batsuma hide a kunoichi of your talent? Is he afraid of something? Tell me, woman. He continues, I'm Tajima Uchiha, but I presume you already knew that. Simple, I was pregnant. Why would he need to hide something? We are capable enough to protect our own. I guessed you were him. Nayuki answers, kind of distracted by searching for an opening. Pregnant? Not possibly with another potential Senju heir? He asks before waiting for her reaction. When he receives no answer, he begins looking around himself. So you can protect your own, huh? So I'm simply imagining all the fallen shinobi of your clan, woman? It is kind of satisfying to see how easily Batsuma fell for our trap. He became a bit senile, don't you think? Tajima continues and rouses laughter from his own shinobi. Shikaku sneers next to her, so you did set this up, I should have known. Mark my words, I'll personally see to your end. The Uchiha simply seem to get into an even better mood with every second. Suddenly one of them moves and kills the last separated Senju. Shikaku looks at Nayuki and whispers, get us out of here. Tajima has played enough with us, he will attack any time now. We don't have time left. She nods and with one last look at the grinning Uchiha leader in front of her she says, it was nice getting to know you, but we have to go now. She grins at him mockingly and watches his face turning into a grimace before she teleports herself and her comrades to Hiraishin seals away from the battlefield. She looks at the survivors of her team. From the original 20 shinobi are only 7 left. Well, at least I could save all the children of our team. Nayuki tries to comfort herself while trying to heal the more grave wounds of her comrades. Tears escape her eyes. Even though everyone sees them, they don't comment on it. If they are honest, they would like to cry too. After some time gathering their strength, Shikaku addresses his remaining shinobi, is everyone rested, at least a bit? We have to reach the compound before sundown. Are you in any condition to travel? Everyone nods in confirmation. They know their leader is protecting them. If they stay in the open, it is likely for them to get ambushed again, and everyone knows that they won't survive another one. Slowly they get on their feet. Some hiss in pain while others only grimace. Nayuki is pained by their suffering but knows she can't help them more than she already did because of her limited medical knowledge. She looks at their leader and waits for his signal to move out. Soon enough he signals them to move. The team moves on a much slower rate now, trying to move at this pace until reaching the compound. Nayuki curses her minimal knowledge of medical ninjutsu once again. If I just had more medical education. Even with all the hours training and helping out at the infirmary, I'm still not able to heal my team. Damn it all, it should have been a simple little mission. Why do all my missions go so wrong? She has to think of her very thirst C rank with Team 7. What Haku taught her and how even Zabusa had to admit how much Haku meant to him. The tears he cried and how carefully he reached out to the corpse of his companion. Back then I learned the dark side of being shinobi, but also that friendship is true strength and never hate. Love is the solution to break the circle of hate. One day I will break that despicable circle. It's just too early. Shit. How come I didn't realize that earlier? Nayuki curses herself and stops. Shikaku. They are still tailing us and I fear they're gaining on us. You guys continue on, none of you is able to fight. I'll distract them long enough for you to get away and then I'll teleport back to you. Nayuki looks into Shikaku's eyes and immediately spots the protest he wants to voice but stops him before he can start. It's an order from your matriarch, Shikaku. Don't worry, I won't get hurt and will catch up to you soon. Everyone looks at her fearfully. They know that she is in the best condition of all of them, but still to just let her stay behind doesn't feel right for them. Shikaku stares at her for a long moment before he nods his head in acceptance. He steps in front of her and pulls her into a hug, while whispering into her ear, "Don't die on us." He turns around and disappears with the team, leaving her as sole fighter behind. Nayuki takes a deep breath and begins her preparations. She places explosive tags all over the place. As soon as she has her chakras suppressed, she hides inside the trees. Her senses tell her that her enemies will arrive within the next minute and she observes the direction they come from. Maybe I can get them without having to step out of the shadows, Nayuki muses to herself before laughing it off. No, Tajima Uchiha won't fall for a simple trap like that. Her body is incredibly tense and pearls of sweat run down her temple. Even the birds seem to realize the dire situation and keep silent. Only the wind rushing through the trees can be heard as Tajima and his men enter the clearing. When the last of them has passed the first explosive seal, Nayuki swallows hard and activates them. A massive explosion catches the Uchiha off guard and kills 8 shinobi on the spot, while another 8 shinobi get hurt terribly. It comes to no surprise that Tajima is with neither group but one of the 5 shinobi who get away unharmed. Tajima looks at the boy next to him and says, "Careful, son. It seems we are not alone. Come out." That's pretty impressive if I say so. I wasn't aware that the Senju have shinobi that are stupid enough to stay behind on their own. Nayuki only scoffs inwardly, staying in her hiding place. Carefully she retrieves kunai with paper bombs attached from her kunai pouch, her eyes never leaving the enemy team. The survivors are getting back into formation trying to find her position. The youngest of them, essentially Tajima's son, looks immensely scared. Nayuki watches the boy with sad eyes. She sympathizes with him. Is this Madara? No, that's not possible. Madara is at the same age as Hashirama and not 2 or 3 years younger. Moreover, Madara is a girl, although it's possible to cross-dress to protect her from the horrors of being a girl in war. Maybe that's one of Madara's brothers who got killed early in life. But if that is the childhood they lived through, I can understand Madara to have lost it later on. These horrors must follow someone forever. Nayuki thinks to herself. Turning out her guild, she launches her kunai at the remaining shinobi to distract them. Another round of explosions goes off before Nayuki engages Tajima in a taijutsu battle. She attacks his head hoping to get an opening into his stance. However, Tajima seems to read her mind and blocks her kick without giving her a chance to recover before he launches his own attacks at her. Most of the time she is blocking his attacks while avoiding attacks from his men. One particular hit aimed at her head could only be blocked at the cost of breaking her arm. While the adults fight, the young Uchiha still stands completely still. The boy hasn't recovered from his shock. This is probably his first battle involving so many explosives. It's not like explosives are rare, but in most fights explosives are not very profitable. Nayuki tries to avoid involving the child into the fights and lures the fighters away from the boy. Without even using hand seals, Nayuki attacks her pursuer with Fuuten, Daitopa. Most of the Uchiha can avoid the attack, only 3 of the seriously injured get blown away. One of her chasers sneaks up from behind and catches her unaware, and the hit throws her to the floor. Her vision blurs for a second, but she can avoid another attack barely. She kneels on the ground, fixing her gaze on the angry Uchiha shinobi in front of her. Immediately Nayuki attacks with Suiten, Mizurapa, and to get some distance between them. However, they counter her attack with Kaden, Dai Enden. Using the distraction of the newly made steam, Tajima goes for another hit. Nayuki saw this coming and is ready to block him. However, one of the younger members of Tajima's squad surprises her and lands a strong hit on Nayuki's shoulder. The strengthened pain of her broken arm forces her to make some steps back and to fall on her knees again. For some moments the pain dulls her senses. Her enemies use this moment to surround her, and one tries to attack on his own. However, Tajima stops him. He turns to Nayuki and grins. "You are not just an average kunoichi, am I right? Shikaku wouldn't have left you behind if you didn't have the power to order him so. You are the current Senju matriarch. I could do a lot terrible things to you, but first I have to suppress your chakra or you will flee within seconds. Am I wrong?" Nayuki's heart pounds rapidly. Sweat gathers on her forehead and runs down her temples and neck. "I don't know what you are talking about. I'm easily disposable. Although I could be the strongest fighter of my team and still haven't shown my full strength. Do the lives of your shinobi mean something to you? I could easily get rid of them." Nayuki answers him, but Tajima ignores her words. To give her statement more meaning, Nayuki creates a Rasengan and sends an enemy shinobi flying, before she swiftly avoids an attack from behind. While trying to avoid and block the never-ending series of attacks, she senses for any signs of her team. This is the distraction another attacker uses and nearly succeeds in placing a chakra suppression seal on her. Only nearly, in the last second she uses Kawarimi and changes place with the Uchiha patriarch's son, who now looks helplessly frightened without his chakra. Tajima growls at the resistance Nayuki can still uphold and attacks her on his own. In her pain she is distracted enough for Tajima to land a blow. His knee connects with her stomach, before he slams her head into the next tree. Terrible pain curses through her body and trails of blood flow out of her mouth. He jerks her back by her hair and looks at her impassive. He sees that he succeeded in making her unfocused and tosses her to the floor before motioning one of his shinobi to place a chakra suppression seal on her. Nayuki knows that this is the maximum of time she can buy for her team and feels for her next Hiraishin seal. Her body aches, and if her situation wasn't so dire she would like to lie back and take a nap before moving again. However, her unfocused gaze fixes upon an approaching figure. Immediately she focuses on the Hiraishin seal and can teleport a second before the seal connects with her body. For now she can relax, though soon she has to move and get away before Tajima catches up to her again. She closes her eyes and tries to calm herself down. Afterwards she checks her wounds. She turns the pain out after she assessed that none of her wounds is threatening or fatal. Finally, her vision isn't any more blurry or unfocused. Now she can follow the others and try to catch up with them. Teleporting from one seal to another saves her a lot of time and decreases the chances of Tajima catching up once again. She knows that she got away barely and that it could have ended a lot worse than it did. Thankfully her first meeting with the legendary Tajima Uchiha ended the way it did. When her chakra reserves are strained, Nayuki continues on by jumping from one tree to another. After some time she can feel the signatures of her comrades again. Her tense muscles begin to ease at the familiarity of them and new strength arises. Within a few minutes she reunites with Shikaku and the others, who immediately call for a break to care for her wounds. Upon reaching the compound the team gets dismissed to go to the infirmary for medical treatments. Nayuki and Shikaku though have a report to make. Reassuring the shinobi around them that they are alright and will go to the infirmary after their report, Shikaku and Nayuki make their way through the crowd. Many of their colleagues try to question them about their mission, but they avoid answering the questions in the eyes of distraught families who lost members on this mission. Nayuki's heart clenches in guilt to not have protected all of them. Shikaku lays his uninjured arm on her shoulder to comfort her. "We couldn't do more than we already did. You even more so," he whispers to her. A young woman runs up to them and throws her arms around Nayuki, who's more than a bit surprised by that gesture. The woman immediately babbles her thanks to Nayuki for bringing her son back to her from this disastrous mission. She tells her, "My name is Kaoru and I thank you with all my heart, Nayuki-heim. If there is something you need, don't hesitate to approach us. I owe you the life of my son Yukimura. It's the least I can do for you. You don't have to pay me back. It's my pleasure to ensure the protection of our youngest members, Kaoru-san." "Really, you owe me nothing," Nayuki tells the young mother, embarrassed. "Still, Heim, if you ever need something our door is open for you," Kaoru insists before running off again. For a moment Nayuki and Shikaku stare after her before resuming their way to Batsuma's office. When they arrive at Batsuma's office, they already hear the voices of their youngest team members. Hashirama, Yahiko and Yukimura are telling Batsuma everything they know about the mission and its wronggoings. Nayuki smiles at the worry she hears in the boys' voices, especially Hashirama's. Nayuki opens the door without knocking while the boys demand to send someone out to look for them and says, "That's not necessary, we already arrived back." "Don't worry." Hashirama jumps at his mother's voice and runs to her, giving her a hug. Nayuki winces because Hashirama doesn't seem to realize that his mother has an injured arm and hugs her with all his might. Silently he cries into his mother's bloody clothes and hiccups, I was so worried. You said that you would catch up to us but you never came. And we thought you might have died fighting the enemy." Nayuki's eyes soften at her crying son. "Shush, it's alright. We are back. I'm fine, my boy. I only need to give Batsuma my report and go to the infirmary, but afterwards we can spend all the time you want together with your brother. Does that sound? Come on, big boy, get going and greet your brothers, will you?" Hashirama looks at Nayuki and smiles a teary but happy smile. While Nayuki wipes away his tears he tells her, "I'll hold you to that. I want to spend a lot time with you and my brothers after that disaster." "Wait, infirmary? Are you hurt? Is it bad? You're going to survive, aren't you?" Nayuki can't help but laugh. It's not that bad, Hash. My arm's broken and I've got some bruises but nothing life-threatening. Do you really believe I would be standing here if I was fatally injured? Give me some credit, would you, son? Hashirama looks one last time at his mother, a bit embarrassed, whispering a soft, "I didn't mean it like that," before bowing to his father and exiting the study, followed by Yahiko and Yukimura. After giving their report, Batsuma dismisses Shikaku and catches his wife in an embrace, minding her injury, and kisses her. "I'm sorry. I was foolish enough to believe into our informants without checking them. It nearly cost your life, forgive me, Yuki. What really nearly cost me my life was my own stupidity, Suma. So don't worry. There is nothing to forgive," Nayuki states while snuggling even more into Batsuma's strong arms. Even if it's just for this moment, Nayuki feels safe. She forgets about the ever-present threat of war and endless fighting. Fall is approaching. The forest around the compound turned into red, orange and brown colors, and everyone is preparing for the upcoming winter. Batsuma silently watches a single leaf falling to the ground from his window. He observes the people under his protection on the busy streets doing their daily work. This temporary peace is what makes fighting worthwhile. However, he doesn't have any illusions about this peace being a lasting one. Within the sea of people, a lone messenger makes his way towards his leader. Batsuma stares at the letter in his hands. Is it possible? How come we didn't notice earlier that someone intercepted our food supply? I can't ignore it, but I can't just take action like that too. What do I do? He murmurs to himself. I should probably send out a spy. His emotions are running wild. He has to take care of his clan and ensure their safety and daily meals. Now they have to save as much of their supplies as they can. The trader they bought their supplies from stopped every interaction with their clan. Therefore, he has to assume that someone intercepted their business. With the winter coming along, their supplies were already cut short and now they get absolutely nothing. How is he supposed to get them through the cold season? There were no other trading groups near willing to sell them. He had already sent out Shikaku and his team to investigate. He would need to find the interceptor to handle the situation accordingly, but first he has to find supplies to feed his clan. He approached the subject with teams, however, no one they found were willing to sell. He would need to send out a spy master who could investigate the blockade in supplies and find another source of food. But who would be able to fill this role accordingly? Totally lost in his thoughts, Batsuma doesn't realize that someone enters his office. His wife looks at him questioning. She's not used to not being noticed after entering his office. Interested as to what has captive Batsuma's thoughts to this extent, Nayuki swiftly moves behind her husband's back to read the letter he's still clutching in his hands. After skimming the paper in Batsuma's hands, she comments, "This looks serious. Does that mean that we won't get new provisions anytime soon? We won't last long with our stores as they are now." She moves down and hugs her husband around the shoulders. Batsuma welcomes the gesture and greets her with a weak smile. Slowly he draws in a long breath and sighs tiredly, before answering her question, "Yes, we won't get any provisions anytime soon. You remember that I sent out Shikaku and his team some days ago? When they returned, they told me that they couldn't find a trader who was willing to provide us with the much-needed food. Everyone either sent them away or didn't have any goods left. Someone is manipulating the trade routes. I would need to send out a spy to investigate the situation and maybe to search for a new food source. However, most of our spies were killed by the Uchiha in the last months and the surviving ones already have important missions. I can't send out someone without any experience either. We are cornered right now." Nayuki is shocked. Without any supplies, soon the first children will die of hunger. She has already seen underweight children running around in the compound. She grimaces while Batsuma studies her intently. Slowly she reaches a decision, even if it hurts her to go on a mission so soon after the whole Tajima Uchiha disaster. She's the only experienced spy left. Moreover, if she doesn't go, her boys and everyone in the compound will suffer from the consequences. Slowly she nods to herself. I have to do it, she thinks to herself. I'll do it, Suma. I'll go searching for new trade partners, she tells him. But Suma looks at her baffled before asking, why do you think you'd be able to achieve anything? I was civilian long enough to observe the behavior of tradesmen. I can simply act as civilian without being suspicious because I have a lot of civilian friends out there. Trust me on this, will you, Suma? If not for me then for the children. They are the first to feel the effects of sparse food rations. Silently he eyes his headstrong wife, knowing she won't budge. As soon as she set her head on something, she won't back down until she got what she wants. Thinking about her words, he understands her point, but still he doesn't want her to be away from his grasp, especially now that Tajima has taken an interest into her. Take someone with you. How about Tora or Kihi? I won't take someone with me. I doubt Tora or Kihi, whoever he is, know how to act as civilians. It isn't common for women to travel on their own, I admit, but it's better than to explain the scarred bodies of war-torn shinobi, Nayuki argues. Kihi is Yukimura's father, Yuki. You won't accept help on this one, will you? Bitsuma asks, sighing in defeat. Arguing with his wife can be like fighting a lost battle. Nayuki smiles one of her brilliant smiles. Hi, I won't give in. Suma, I promise to report every second day so that you and the boys won't have to worry, but we need to find a solution soon. We won't even last until the winter has even begun, with our stores already being as low as they are. Hashirama watches his mother with tear-filled eyes. It hasn't even been a month since his mother encountered Tajima Uchiha, and now she's going on a mission again. She couldn't even tell him how long she'll be gone. I just wasn't fair. Who will be taking care of them? With Hanabi soon having to take off from work because of her pregnancy and rapidly failing health, there won't be anybody he knows and trusts near him and his brothers. What if his mother doesn't return and dies in action? He already lost one mother, he doesn't want to lose Nayuki too. Tobarama eyes the scene in front of him curiously. He doesn't understand the problem with his mother going on a mission, and nearly everybody in the compound goes on missions. However, Hashi-ni seems to be bothered by her new mission. Not knowing how to comfort his brother, he hugs Hashirama the first time after a long time. Silently Hashirama returns the clumsy hug and buries his face into Birama's shoulder. Hashirama is glad that his brother doesn't seem to understand the grave situation with the upcoming season. Winter is the harshest season, the season with the most deaths of frailty, illness and hunger. It's an unforgiving season. Why would their mother leave facing the coming cold alone? Why was this mission so important? Was there something the adults were shielding the children from? All these questions run through his head, and it costs all his strength to not start crying here and now. After composing himself again, he looks at his mother's packing form again. However, this time his mother looks at them smiling a sad smile. Hashirama, you and Tobarama are going to take care of your little brothers, right? I promise to return as soon as possible, so don't worry. You are my big boys now, aren't you? How about this, when I get back I'll bring you some presents. You do like presents, don't you? Nayuki consoles her sons, trying to get Hashirama on high spirits again. She's not naive. She knows Hashirama understands at least the cruelty of the upcoming season. He is old enough to have seen at least some of the victims of the last winter. He is going to worry himself sick on her behalf if she doesn't get him to believe in her. Her gaze lingers on the eldest until he slowly nods. She smiles in relief. You won't take too long, will you, Ka-chan? You will be back before it starts snowing, right? I'll give my best. For weeks Nayuki has already tried to find any trader who still can offer vast amounts of food. Sure, she bought every bit of corn and rice she could get and sent it to the clan, but this is no permanent solution. Her summons are still observing their former trading partners to find the interceptor without luck so far. Soon she'll arrive in the next village. Hopefully, she will find any clues on food sources there. Her steps are heavy, while she watches the first snowflakes fall. She can't help but feel like she breaks her promise to Hashirama. She didn't make it back to the compound before it began snowing. Shaking her head, she tries to get rid of these thoughts. Ever so slowly the cold is getting to her and a shiver runs down her spine. She grabs her coat and snuggles even more into the sparse warmth and comfort it offers. Finally reaching the village, she searches out the local inn first. The only things she can think of for now are a warm bath and much needed rest. The only room available is run down, but it doesn't bother Nayuki. Stumbling into her room, she puts away her baggage. Before seeking out the bath, she dreamed about the last nights under the clear sky. The hot water warms her every pore. At last she isn't freezing anymore. Clean, she returns to her room, ready to succumb to her exhaustion. The old futon is very comfortable, or is it just the absence of any accommodation in the last weeks that is tricking her into believing it? Slowly she slips into sleep. She dreams of her sons and of Bitsuma. She longs for taking her boys into her arms and hugging the living daylight out of them. The next morning Nayuki looks around the village. On the other side of the village she finds a merchant selling food. "Good afternoon, good sir. Could you tell me about your stock? Would you be ready to sell all of your goods?" She questions the man carefully while observing his reaction. The merchant watches her with interest before involving her into a long business talk. During their talk Nayuki gathers a lot of interesting information, as it seems the merchant was a former trading partner for the Uchiha clan. However, they recently dismissed him and he lost his main income source. Apparently, the Uchiha clan found another cheaper trader. Silently, Nayuki thinks to herself, maybe they stopped our supplier. It would make sense. I had to come a long way here to even meet their old supplier. They probably didn't expect for one of us to meet their old partner. But without any proof, it doesn't take Nayuki long to strike a deal with the desperate merchant. The merchant looks at her in disbelief before asking once again, "You'll come with us and act as our protection until we can sell our goods to the Senju clan? How do you even know they want our goods? I'm a part of the Senju clan. Does it bother you to be protected by a woman? I will send out a messenger hawk to inform the clan leader of our advancing in order to gain further protection." Nayuki tries to answer the asked questions without giving away too much. The idea of getting more protection seems to appeal to the head merchant and soon every member of his company is informed about their new destination. The time the head merchant took to inform his men, Nayuki took to inform her own clan of the new arrangement. Finally she can return to her children, even if she didn't manage to unravel the mystery of the stopped food supply. The journey seems to constantly getting longer. The falling snow makes it difficult for the merchants to move their wagons. The horses pulling them tire rather fast and the civilian merchants have their own difficulties with moving in the snow. Soon they will have to take a break. Nayuki observes the scene before her. The elderly men are already sitting on the wagons. Some of them are sleeping. They haven't been able to keep pace. Although they don't have to run along now, it's not the best solution. Without having to move, the cold is getting to them. Even the younger merchants are slipping. Seeing the shivering messes, Nayuki decides to call for a break. "Let's take a break," she shouts loudly. Immediately you can see the change in the merchants' behavior. Relief can be seen in their faces as they shatter to take care of providing food and getting a fire started. They have some problems with starting the fire the usual way considering the ongoing snowstorm and the wet wood used for it. Even if Nayuki doesn't like to start a fire for the sake of giving away their position, she doubts that anyone can pinpoint the smoke in this snowstorm and lets them do their routine. After 2 weeks of traveling with the group she is already used to it. Nayuki takes a seat near the soon-to-be fire. Busily the merchants run around arranging some seats, bring water to heat on the fire and share food. Soon the water is heated and used to make some tea, providing some warmth to the freezing people. Her traveling companions offer her some bread and tea. Now that they know that she is capable of protecting them, they were attacked by several bandits. They began to include her as a part of their group. They're actually rather good companions. Everyone chatters happily around her, well, except the head of their group. He observes his group silently looking for possible causes of problems for their company. The head of the merchants, Byakuran, acts like a protective father for his employees. Nayuki decides for herself. He is a strict leader but soft at heart. Somehow he reminds her of Batsuma. While Nayuki is musing to herself, she can feel a sudden spike of chakra not too far away from them. It feels desperate, like there is a battle going on and the owner is losing. Coming to indecision, Nayuki forms the hand signs and makes 3 shadow clones within mere seconds. Immediately she addresses them and puts them into formation. Obviously they'll stay behind to protect the caravan. Satisfied with the provided protection, she searches for Byakuran. As she turns around she notices that he has already focused his attention on her. His questioning gaze silently asks for an explanation of her sudden change of behavior. In his eyes she can see worry about a possible attack he's still unaware of. "I could feel a strong chakra source not too far away from here. However, don't be alarmed. There is a high chance that whoever alarmed me doesn't even know of our location and isn't interested in us. Therefore, stay and act as if nothing has happened. I'll go and check the potential threat out, but my clones will be here to provide protection if needed," Nayuki explains him. Seemingly satisfied with her explanation, Byakuran nods at her shortly before she vanishes from his sight. In a sprint, Nayuki makes her way through the trees to the location of the chakra fluctuation. Even if she is a kunoichi, the snow slows her down. meaning she travels a lot slower than she'd like. She observes her surroundings and after a while begins to note signs of battle. Luckily she already suppressed her chakra completely as she nears the assumed battlefield. Checking out the upcoming chakra sources, Nayuki decides that the owner of the chakra she felt has already lost his life. Hidden in a tree she comes to a halt and watches the scene unfolding before her. At first she can only tell that two different clans clashed, but soon she recognizes the engraved clan emblems on their uniforms. Uchiha and Sarutobi. She realizes that a team of Uchiha attacked a team of Sarutobi shinobi or the other way around. However, it doesn't look too good for the Sarutobi men. The 6 Uchiha shinobi massacred the Sarutobi team with the exception of one young boy a bit older than Hashirama. Looking at him, Nayuki remembers Konohamaru dying while trying to protect Kurenai and the unborn child she carried. She remembers the light leaving his eyes after one of the white Zetsus slit his throat, the tears gathering in his eyes as he realizes that he failed to protect his unborn cousin. She sees his silent plea to save them as he turns at her for the last time. The pain of reliving the death of the boy she considered a little brother hits her hard. Silent tears run down her cheeks. Guilt fills her heart as she remembers failing to fulfill Konohamaru's dying wish. Before her eyes plays the scene of Kurenai's slaughter. The way Madara Uchiha herself killed the pregnant woman couldn't be described any different. Madara cut Kurenai into two, right through her abdomen, effectively killing the babe too. She loses grasp for reality for seconds. When she refocuses on the happenings in front of her, the Uchiha are about to kill the Konohamaru lookalike. Not being able to bear the burden of letting him die, Nayuki attacks. She jumps from her hiding spot, takes the first Uchiha by surprise and kills him without giving him a chance to defend himself. Immediately the warriors take battle positions and assess the new situation. Protectively she takes position in front of the hurt boy. The Uchiha in front of her are not less surprised about the situation than the boy protected behind her. Not wanting to take any chances, Nayuki takes out her Hiraishin Kunai and throws it at her nearest enemy. With a yellow flash, Nayuki appears before her unsuspecting victim and slits his throat immediately. While Nayuki is focused on attacking the next enemy shinobi, another one sneaks up on her from behind. He catches her off guard and punches her into a tree. Fast she gets to her feet again, only to barely avoid Kaden Gukaku no Jutsu fired by said shinobi. As soon as she has solid ground under her feet again, she throws some shuriken at her enemies using Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to reinforce the strength of her attack while preparing her next step. Using Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and Kawarimi, she diverts the attention of them from her original self to set up another attack. Using her one time, she teleports behind her next victim and pushes a Rasengan into his gut before disappearing again. Seeing his chance, one of the last Uchiha rushes towards the Sarutobi boy. Seconds before reaching his target, a chakra-enhanced kick strikes him at his midsection and throws him several feet away. Not wanting to put the young boy into further danger, Nayuki uses Suiden Bakusu Shoha to get all 3 remaining enemy shinobi at the same time. After her jutsu stopped, Nayuki still watches her opponents wary. She doesn't want one of them to get up again and take her by surprise. It would be a foolish beginner's mistake. Finally convinced that none of them will get up anytime soon, she turns her attention back to the last remaining Sarutobi. From afar she assesses the extent of his injuries, before taking careful steps towards him. Clearly afraid, the boy tries to get away from her. His injuries, however, paralyze him with pain. Nayuki smiles sadly and addresses the boy. "My name is Nayuki Senju, young Sarutobi, and I can assure you that if I wanted to hurt you I'd have let the Uchiha shinobi do as they pleased. I'm here to help you. I want to heal your wounds before they get infected or you hurt yourself critically with you obviously broken ribs." The boy's gaze remains fixed as he thinks about his situation. After a short contemplation he nods shortly, allowing her to come up to him and work on his wounds. Silence engulfs the pair as Nayuki works effectively on his wounds. She heals his broken ribs as far as possible and closes his open wounds using medical ninjutsu she learned from Taiga. Soon the adrenaline leaves the boy's body and he succumbs to the darkness of exhaustion. Looking at the unconscious boy in her arms, Nayuki sighs. "I didn't even get to ask for his name. Well, now it's too late. I got lucky with not getting any terrible wounds while fighting. I should get back to the caravan, it's not safe to stay in this area. As soon as Nayuki got back to the caravan, the unconscious boy on her back, she ordered to break up the camp and move on. Byakuran tried to argue with her, but Nayuki knew about the danger of remaining near a battlefield. Not wanting to get a visit from any Uchiha teams, Nayuki stood her ground and convinced Byakuran of the dangers of staying. The young Sarutobi hasn't woken up ever since. Now with night approaching, Nayuki finally decided that they had put enough distance between them and the battlefield and could put up a new camp. Nayuki keeps the boy at arm's length and prepares their shared place for the night. A soft groan catches her attention and she turns to her slowly awakening guest. She watches as he blinks away his sleep and his instinct kicks in at the unfamiliar surroundings. Deciding that it's high time for some answers, she addresses the confused boy, "So you are finally awake, huh? I hope you have rested a bit because I have some questions for you." Seeing that the boy panicking, Nayuki decides to add, "Let's start with your name and why the Uchiha team slaughtered yours." Knowing that he can't get away from her, the boy answers, "Sasuke, my name is Sasuke Sarutobi. My team was investigating the sudden stop of supplies in our area when the Uchiha attacked us." Tears begin to form in the poor kid's eyes. He lost his whole team, his comrades. Another kid thrown into a cruel world of war. I should let him mourn his comrades for now, she thinks to herself. I'll get us some food and afterwards we can continue our little chat. She tells the crying child in front of her before walking up to the caravan's cooks. Throughout the whole dinner, Sasuke silently cried. When they finished their meal, Nayuki pulled him into a hug of comfort. For a moment Sasuke took comfort in this strange woman, too gone and grieved to realize his mistake. Would Nayuki have been an enemy, he wouldn't have survived. After some time he pushed her away, slowly comprehending his vulnerable situation again. What are you going to do with me? He asks. Well, for now I'd like to know about the lack of supplies you were talking about. It turns out that just as the Senju clan, the Sarutobi clan was cut off of supplies without any visible reason. The Sarutobi followed the every possibility and were lead to the Uchiha clan, concluding the same thing Nayuki speculated. The Uchiha clan cut them off of their suppliers. While they are still talking, the requested Senju team arrives as backup. The team consists of 10 members. Nayuki watches them close and immediately spots signs of malnutrition, making her hope for the health of her children before turning her attention to the leader of the team. He is a young man, if she had to guess around 20 give or take, and has long brown hair, bound to a ponytail. It's good to see that I finally get some backup. Could you tell me your name? Nayuki addresses him. I'm glad we finally found you, Nayuki Haim. We were actually searching the area for some already, he answers her swiftly. My name is Akiko. Could you give me a short overview about the situation? We found a battlefield not too far away. Well, talking with Akiko took its toll on Nayuki. This utterly stupid bastard. How can someone be so persistent about killing a child I nearly died for? Just because he could be a potential strong enemy in the future. I mean, from what I know from my history lessons, the Sarutobi were strong allies of the Senju. Sasuke will be Hokage Jiji's father. I can't let him die. I won't have much of a choice, do I? I'll have to overrule Akiko as the clan matriarch. I hate to pull the authority card. At least Akiko brought a scroll from Batsuma telling her to meet up with him and a team about 12 miles away from the clan compound near a waterfall for the negotiations. She wouldn't have let the merchants into the compound, but it's nice to know where to head. Taking her time, Nayuki watches the Senju shinobi interact with our future trading partners. One of the shinobi reminds her of someone she knows. It's nerve-wracking seeing him and not knowing why he seems so similar. His long black hair bound to a high ponytail is framing a handsome face. His stature tells her that he's one hell of a strong man. His whole body is ripped and one can easily see that he must have trained consistently, while his big and trusting honey-brown eyes tell her about his easygoing personality. It is rare to find a shinobi with such a personality, especially in war. He must be strong-willed, and somehow she believes that he must have an understanding for the meaning of real strength. Growing tired of her upcoming headache, she approaches the shinobi in question. Well, hello there. I'd like to ask you something. Do we know each other? You seem so similar, Nayuki calls out to him. The man smiles at her and answers slightly amused. I don't believe so, Nayuki Haim. My name is Kihi. However, I do believe that you know my wife Kaoru and son Yukimura. Nayuki nods slowly, it makes sense to her. Now that he said it, Yukimura is a splitting image of him, a few years younger and less muscular, and his short hair is as curly as his mother's, but still the resemblance is obviously. She laughs and grins at him happily. That's where I know you from. You've got a wonderful and handsome son there, Kihi. And let's not forget about your lovely wife. You're one hell of a lucky guy, aren't you? Kihi himself has to laugh out loud now. Yep, that's the start of a wonderful friendship, Nayuki notes to herself as she involves him into a cheerful conversation. After some time Nayuki returns to check up on her little guest. Fast she forces the young boy out of his clothes and starts with removing his bandages. As soon as she gets rid of the bandages she can see the obvious healing process. Only 3 days ago he was a bloody mess, but with her medical assistance the wounds heal nicely. Smooth pink skin is visible as it already replaced most of the wounds. She knows that it will leave some scars, but everyone has scars, so what? She smiles at the young boy in front of her and informs him, if you think you're up to it, I'll give you my permission to return to your home now. I could heal your ribs as good as possible, they will hurt for some days and your wounds are healing nicely too. Therefore, I don't see any problem with letting you return home. A pair of excited eyes is fixed on her, while a smile tries to split her patient's face into halves. Are you for real? I'm allowed to return home? You won't take me with you as hostage? Thank you so much, Nayuki-san, he shouts out loud as he hugs her briefly. She can hear some chuckles behind her from the Senju guards. They seem to be amused with their matriarch's love for children. Only Akiko comes up to the pair and ruins the carefree mood with his input about proper respect to their clan's matriarch and that he wouldn't let the boy go, but as it is he can't decide upon the boy's fate. Sasuke's eyes nearly pop out at the new information. He knew that she is part of the Senju clan, but to imagine that the Senju matriarch herself saved his life is surprising. He hardens his resolve and decides to tell his father about the lovable Senju matriarch and her kindness. With another reassuring nod from his life savior he turns to collect his belongings. Clumsily he stumbles around grabbing one article after another till there is nothing left. Ready to leave he eyes the camp and warriors for a last time, letting his gaze linger on Nayuki for some seconds, thanking and smiling at her for a last time, before saying his goodbye and vanishing in the trees. Nayuki follows him with her sensor ability until he leaves her range. Smiling satisfied she addresses Akiko ordering him to prepare for their departure. Obediently he arranges every preparation. The last days of traveling go by easily without any disturbances and Nayuki is glad. She is grateful that her journey was as peaceful as that. But now knowing that her husband and children are only some final steps away from her, she begins dreading the health of their loved ones. For long she could shove away her worries to concentrate on her mission, but now they return and hit her full force. Were they all right? Did they have to starve? Was anyone hurt or worse ill? She won't even think about the possibility that one of the babies was too weak to stomach the harsh change in their environment. Every step seems to take ages as they near the appointed meeting place. Not only because she dreads any bad news but also because she can't wait to hold them in her arms again. Oh, how she missed to cuddle her little sons and play with them. Silently she promises herself to spend the next days with her family if only to catch up with them and spoil her boys a tiny little bit. Watching ahead she can already catch glimpses of the enormous waterfall they decided to meet at. Instinctively she moves faster. Concentrating a bit more on watching ahead she can at last see Batsuma standing near the water. He looks so handsome wearing his amur while having on his stern mask. After all this time of separation he makes her heart jump of joy. She can see a bit of a weight loss but overall he looks healthy enough. Releasing a breath she didn't know she was holding she moves on to his escort. Next to him waits Shikaku and a few hand-picked shinobi she doesn't know. All of them healthy but a bit starved. She's relieved and would like to run up to Batsuma, however, she refrains knowing to put on a professional mask herself. She's a clan matriarch now, even if it's hard to contain her bubbly personality in order to appear composed. So she stops her sprint and begins to walk again until she comes to a stop in front of her husband. She greets Batsuma with a smile and nods to Shikaku. Batsuma's lips twitch at her healthy appearance as he greets her himself. Some of his wrinkles soften and disappear at her healthy stature and she can see his hidden worry vanish. Nayuki, it is good to see you again. Would you like to introduce me to our trading partner, before you can return to the compound? You can give your mission report later. He addresses her in his all-business attitude. Nodding, she introduces Byakuran to him before he turns his attention at her again, sending her off home to get some rest and finally reunite with her beloved sons. Normally she would have protested about being excluded from the important discussion, however, the prospect of seeing her sons again stops any argument from leaving her mouth. Silently she says her goodbyes to the caravan she traveled with so long. In the meantime, Bitsuma tells Kihi to accompany her and silently promises her to welcome her back more lovingly later. When Nayuki and Kihi begin to make their way to the compound, Bitsuma starts to talk with their new business partner. Skilled both shinobi move through the trees, anxiously running towards their families. It doesn't take them long until they can see the wall built around the compound. Seeing the gates of the compound in the distance, they take up their pace. As soon as they enter the compound, they excuse themselves and rush towards their homes. While running towards her house, she observes the people on the streets. Most look rather hungry and starved. Some of the children running by look like they are wearing clothes that don't fit. Seeing the results of the shortage of food, Nayuki moves faster until she stands at their front door. She takes a deep breath before grabbing the doorknob and opening the door the first time in months. Warm air rushes into her face as she enters her home. Silently she searches the house for her son's chakra signatures, finding them in the living room together with Hanabi. Upon entering the room, her eyes fall on the slightly starved-looking children in front of her. Her heart clenches at her suffering sons. Trembling, she observes them playing together until Tobarama suddenly looks up, directly at her. "Ka-chan," he whispers breathless. Hearing his brother's words, Hashirama too looks at Nayuki. He on the other hand jumps to his feet and runs up to his mother with a loud shout of, "Ka-chan." He throws himself into her, hugging her desperately. Even Tobarama gets to his little feet and runs up to her. Both mutter their fears into her dirty clothes as they cry and hug her at the same time. Nayuki pulls both of them into her as her own eyes fill themselves with hot tears and her trembling hands run through their hair. She reassures them and kisses both over and over again while tears travel down her cheeks. Hanabi watches the happy reunion in front of her and smiles, shedding some tears of her own. Sometime later, Nayuki lets go of her older sons and moves to pick up her growing baby boys. With Kawarama and Itama in her arms, she settles down on the floor and immediately Hashirama and Tobarama cuddle up to her on both sides. Hanabi decides to greet her friend back too now that her sons have greeted her already. "It's good to have you back, my friend. How was your travel? Did you have many problems and could you really find new food suppliers?" Nayuki's watery eyes settle upon the pregnant woman before her. "Hi, it's good to see you too. We didn't have many problems. Once I got involved into a blood hunt of the Uchiha as they were going after a Sarutobi team, but that's the most interesting thing that happened besides finding a food supplier in Byakuran and his caravan." Curious children eyes looked at her silently, asking for the whole story. Complying the wordless begging, she starts telling her story. Throughout the story, the faces of her listener go through various emotions. At the end of her tale, Nayuki realizes that it's nighttime by now. Hanabi, realizing the same, excuses herself and makes her way home. Nayuki though has to answer her son's curious questions for another half of an hour. When the family settles for the night, Hashirama and Tobarama look at their mother figure and ask her about staying with her and their father for the night. "We haven't seen you in such a long time and we really need to make sure that you are here. We want to wake up next to you tomorrow, only to be sure that it wasn't a dream that you came home today." Hashirama explains their behavior to her as Tobarama nods. She sighs and smiles before assuring that it's alright for them to stay. When she finally lays down on her futon, both of them cuddle into her sides and fall asleep. Soon Nayuki follows them into the land of dreams, while holding her sons in a loving embrace. And that's exactly the position in which Bitsuma finds his wife and sons upon returning. Smiling to himself, he joins his newly reunited family in bed, kissing each of them on the forehead before moving one of his arms protectively around them. A thick blanket of snow decorates the garden of the Senju main house. The morning sun sparkles in the snow as Nayuki takes in the scene in front of the window. It's the perfect weather for building a snowman. "Maybe the boys will like to play outside with me," she muses to herself. It's been 3 days since Nayuki returned and most of the time she spends with her sons for the time being. Amused Nayuki thinks of the last days. Hashirama and Tobarama seem to have made it their mission to follow her like lost puppies. Wherever she went, they followed her. She can see Bustuma's growing restlessness. He wants the boys to train, which both ignored for the days since her return. She sighs as she hears them running down the stairs. One day more or less without training won't change too much and tomorrow they will return to their training regime. At the same time she stops her musing. The boys enter the kitchen with broad smiles on their faces. Their smiles seem to widen even more as they spot the delicious breakfast she prepared for them. While the older boys dig into their meals, Nayuki goes to collect their younger brothers from their room. When she enters the room, Kawurama already stands in his crib smiling at his mother. Ka-chan, he squeals at her happily. Itama on the other hand still sleeps. Without disturbing his sleep, Nayuki takes them into her arms and rejoins Hashirama and Tobarama in the kitchen. Silently she takes a seat next to Hashirama and begins to feed Kawurama a bit of the miso soup she prepared for them. With gusto Kawurama clears his tiny bowl of soup, before he turns his face to a bowl of steamed rice. His wide eyes are practically begging his mother to feed him of the rice too. A giggle escapes Nayuki as she eyes Kawurama's begging eyes. It doesn't take long to satisfy the little rascal and his older brothers finish their meals about the same time. Only Itama still enjoys his sleep as his brothers begin to play with one another. Swiftly Nayuki enjoys her own breakfast, as few as it is. Even if they found a supplier now, they can't just waste food. They need to be careful with their new one supplies. Just as Nayuki finishes the dishes, a wailing sound alarms her of Itama's waking. Taking the baby food she prepared earlier, she feeds her youngest too. It doesn't take long for Hashirama, Tobarama and Kawurama to return to her side after hearing their youngest brother. While Hashirama and Tobarama run into the kitchen with ease, their baby brother has small difficulties. He wobbles into the kitchen smiling like a loon. It seems like Kawurama tries to show off to her. How cute, Nayuki squeals in her thoughts. When all of them are seated in front of her, she clears her throat. Their attention fixes itself upon her immediately. Boys, how would you like to go outside and build a snowman? She asks them seriously. A wide grin spreads on Hashirama's face and Tobarama looks confused. What is a snowman? He finally asks. Disbelieving Nayuki looks at Tobarama. You have never built a snowman? Well then, I'll show you how it's done. We just need to wait for Hanabi, so that she can take care of Itama. After a short explanation on how to build a snowman, Nayuki, Hashirama and Tobarama begin to roll around snowballs. Kawurama runs around between his family members. His interest lies with the cold and white substance he can throw around. It doesn't take the family long to create 3 different sized snowballs. Nayuki explains that the biggest ball is the base while the smallest ball is on the top. Together they put the balls into their respective places. Hashirama looks at the construct of snow and decides that it still needs eyes. As eyes and for the mouth we can use small stones. And for the arms I'd suggest to use some twigs, Nayuki tells the boys. Immediately Hashirama and Tobarama run off to find the needed materials. Nayuki turns to Kawurama who is rolling in the snow around a small hill he built. She has to laugh seeing the 2-year-old behaving like that. Sometimes she wonders why the boy still has some problems with walking, but she decided that he's just not as fast and taking up new skills are a bit lazy. However, playing with snow seems to motivate him a lot as he even starts to run around to collect different things to decorate his little snow hill. Now that she thinks about it, she has never seen him running around as fast as he is now. Nayuki closes her eyes and enjoys the peaceful moment to its fullest. Slowly she takes deep breaths and expands her sensor range. She feels for her sons and watches over them. Soon she can feel them running back to her and Kawurama. Hashirama and Tobarama bring enough small stones to give the snowman a nice smile. The twigs they found get positioned as arms and a small piece of wood becomes the nose. As they look at their snowman, Hashirama decides to get some extra materials. As he returns to the group he carries a scarf, a senju headband and a tanto with him. He places all those things at their respective places and exclaims, "Now that's what I call a classical senju shinobi." Nayuki, Tobarama and even little Kawurama break into fits of laughter at Hashirama's exclamation. Shortly after they choose to get back inside, Not before having had a short snowball war, in which Hashirama and Tobirama teamed up on their Ka-san, fought bravely and won, of course, because the cold gets to them. Nayuki even decides that they deserve sweet tea and cookies as prize for their one battle. The promise of hot tea and some cookies lets the boys hurry inside fast. Inside, all of them get some dry clothes. While they change, Hanabi prepares tea and the promised cookies. Sitting together, the boys tell Hanabi about their adventure outside. Even Kawurama shouts out, "Snow fun," a few times. Hashirama tells her about how their snowman is now one of their kinsmen and will fight alongside them to protect the clan. The mood is cheerful until Hashirama asks his mother, totally out of context at that, why there has to be war all the time. Silence falls over the assembled group as Nayuki tries to find the right words and stares at her son in wonderment. All eyes land upon Nayuki as she thinks about how to explain her opinion to Hashirama. Hanabi is anxious about Nayuki's answer. Knowing that she is a kunoichi who was brought up outside of the clan, she probably can't understand their motivations and could even start a quarrel with Bitsuma-sama about this. After staying silent for some minutes, Nayuki starts telling Hashirama, "You know that war is a never-ending circle of hatred. One day out of greed, interest, hate or whatever a person was killed. This person, however, has a family, who swears on revenge for their lost relative and kills the murderer. The murderer in turn has a family of his own too. The circle of revenge spins and with it hate begins to grow. As time goes by, the hate doesn't stay focused on the actual murderers and will get projected upon their relative too. To ease the pain of loss, get justice upon the dead, families begin to fight each other restlessly. It's an endless circle that won't stop, unless one day people begin to understand each other perfectly. I personally believe that it's not in the human nature to want to harm another person, but more of an easy way out of things. No, that's not right, killing someone is never easy. One day, I think that one day the time will come when even Uchiha and Senju stop their endless fighting. They will understand each other and life side by side. Then an era of peace will be born, but, until then, a lot of drastic changes will have to happen." Nayuki realizes that she began rambling about her dream of real peace. She stops and stares at her sons. She takes a moment and continues, "Boys, I want you to know the real source of strength. To become real strong, you need something precious, something to protect. Those who fight to protect and not out of hate will find their real strength." Happily, Hashirama swears to get strong only in order to protect his family, friends and the clan. Tobirama on the other hand seems confused, but complies nonetheless. Hanabi looks at Nayuki in shock. How can this woman in front of her believe that one day Senju and Uchiha will stop fighting? More so, even life side by side? The idea on its own is laughable. Never will there be a time when their clans will try to understand each other or possibly forgive one another. Although Hanabi doesn't agree with her matriarch, she keeps silent. How should she know what it's like to be one of those who have to face the enemy on the battlefield? So she keeps silent even if she disagrees. Without anyone noticing it, Bitsuma stood outside the door and heard every word. He is angry. First she dares to use one of my important weapons to put it into what looks like a great waste of time, and now she is telling my sons all these stupid lies. I can't argue with the true strength part, but the rest is outrageous. Bitsuma fumes to himself as he storms into the room. Taking a deep breath, he reminds himself that for someone who grew up without their living situation, her ideas might seem possible. Deciding upon telling her about their views later on, he enters the room. Originally he wanted to enjoy a relaxing afternoon with his family, but now he has to make sure that she understands to not use their weapons for trivial things like the snow monstrosity in the backyard. Their weapons guarantee their survival. To waste and damage them to play could cost lives. As he sits down next to his wife, he places the tanto on the table in front of them. Once again he takes a calming breath before addressing the matter at hand. Hanabi is tense, fearing the worst. Her stubborn leader must have heard Nayuki-Hime's ideals. Her eyes flicker from the tanto at the table to her leader's angry face and Nayuki-Hime's determined one. Her poor Hime is probably going to infuse his already foul mood. Nayuki herself is determined to defend her ideals. If necessary, she'll shout at him, but for now she'll wait for him to make the first. For a minute she eyes the tanto before her. He won't use it to punish us, but I find myself curious. What does he need a tanto for? As Bitsuma finally addresses his wife, he starts with the misuse of his tanto. I believe that each and every one of you should be aware that weapons are no toys. So if you would be so kind to explain why my tanto was used to build this snow creature, I'd be happy to listen, he orders softly. The moment Nayuki steels herself to protect her sons, Hashirama admits on using it. I apologize, father. It was my idea. I wanted our snowman to be able to protect us, seeing as he is Senju-kin. He quips up in a quiet voice. But Tsuma watches his son in disbelief. Did he just call these construct of snow our kin? He thinks silently to himself. His eldest has always been a bit different. Different is nothing bad, however, well, different. Nayuki has to giggle at Hashirama's explanation and adds, your tanto was protected by its sheath. After warming up we would have gotten it back inside. But Tsuma can only watch the combined force of his wife and son defend their actions. He didn't even realize that his jaw dropped at their antics. Awkwardly he coughs, fixing both with a hard stare. Alright, as long as you can see your fault, I'll be willing to forgive you. Tomorrow though, I want you to start training again. I believe you have spent enough time with your mother now. Nayuki, I want to talk to you later. We do have to make some things clear, he tells them at last. Knowing that he'll want to talk about her ideals, Nayuki answers with a sharp nod, before she snuggles into her husband's side. She decides for herself that if he can wait to talk to her for later, he can't be that mad. And if he's mad, it's not too late for her to give him a piece of her mind. Dim light illuminates the room. It's been several hours since the sun left the horizon. The quivering light paints the opposing faces in a faint orange. The people facing each other keep quiet. None of them wants to disturb the peace that settled some time ago. The male sighs before finally addressing the matter at hand. Nayuki, today's afternoon you said a few things I would like to correct. First of all, I too believe that you can only achieve your full potential if you aim to protect. This concept I'd apply to family and clan. I don't know if you'd include the healer that saved your life into this concept, and if I'm honest, I don't care. However, I do have to argue with your vision of peace. If there is something I'm undeniably sure of, it is the fact this world won't ever find peace. There is no way our clan will ever be able to forgive the horrendous crimes committed against us by the Uchiha clan and its allies. It's not only the Uchiha clan that wronged us, but several other minor clans too. The Uchiha clan is simply our strongest opponent. They do not know any qualm. They kill our children without second thoughts and we act accordingly. Even if we do stop killing children, the Uchiha won't stop and we give a new generation of potential strong enemies a chance to kill us in the future. There is no way that I'll ever forgive their crimes. But Tsuma pulls his hands into fist while grabbing his trousers. Nayuki looks at her husband sadly. She knew that he fell into the circle of hatred. Looking at Tsuma, she senses his own personal history behind his harsh words. Silently she contemplates about asking his history and listening to his whole point of view before giving him an overview of her point. There is always the possibility that he is more willing to listen to her if he knows that she is aware of his past. Upon deciding that she'll try to ask him about his past, she looks back into his eyes. Silently she asks him, I'd like to tell to shove it, but I know that there is a reason behind your way of thinking. Without any knowledge of your past, it's hard for me to understand your reasoning. Would you share your past with me so that I can understand your point of view better? I don't want to tell you my opinion without knowing your past. I myself have lost many in the past, but I'd like to know your history first. But Tsuma thinks about her request for a few seconds. His past is something he'd like to never ever think about again. His wife's request brings out memories full of pain. He gulps down the lump that built inside his throat. Once again he gives his wife a critical eye before sighing. Alright, I'll tell you a few things, but you'll have to share your own stories with me. He tells her almost whispering, when I was still a kid I had 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister. My brothers were older while my sister was younger. I did love them dearly. We were inseparable. We brothers took care of our little sister. Her smile was akin to a sunrise. But Tsuma takes a short pause. He can still see her smiling at him. He remembers his brothers and himself running after her and taking care of her every need and doing everything to make her smile. While he lingers with his own thoughts, Nayuki observes him carefully. His face doesn't betray any emotions except for his eyes. They shine in nostalgia of the lost happiness. After another few seconds he coughs awkwardly before continuing his tale. I could have gone on like this forever. We were taking care of each other, laughing and playing with each other. We nearly forgot about the dangers of our time by being with each other. However, we were reminded of it again when the Hagoromo clan attacked our compound directly. We were playing hide and seek when the alarm went off. We didn't even realize what had happened until invading shinobi had already put a kunai through our little sister's throat. My brothers and I were saved by some of our kinsmen, but by then my oldest brother had already taken a lot of damage to protect us. None of us had been on missions until then. We were still too young to fight, but not to die. You're never too young to die in war. The bitterness in his voice urges Nayuki to get up and sit down next to him. She pulls her lover into a bone-crushing hug and kisses him once, before letting him continue. She observed his expression earlier and once again you could only read his pain in his eyes. Those, however, show his emotional pain quite accurately. Her train of thought is interrupted when he continues his story. The attacking force was overwhelming back then and we had to flee to one of our minor compounds. When we got there our numbers had dropped considerably. Not only did we lose our sister, but our mother, aunt and 3 uncles. Our father was critically hurt as was my oldest brother. It took weeks for our father to heal, but he did it unlike our brother. He died as an aftermath of this attack. Within 3 weeks my whole world had changed. The loss of my family members and the change in our training regime made sure of that. My last brother and I no longer trained every second day, no, we trained every day until we fell unconscious. We trained like that for years until my brother was old enough for his first mission. Then I was left alone with my training. Sure, my brother trained with me every time he could arrange it, but that wasn't that often. He was the clan heir and had a clan to represent. Therefore, he had to take on a lot missions. I would have never admitted it, but I was lonely and felt kind of forgotten. It's not my brother's fault, but the whole situation pained me terrible. Anyway, afterwards it didn't take that long for me to take on my first mission, another significant change in my life. On one of my first missions I met Tajima for the first time. He was such a cocky opponent back then. I won't say he has changed much, but today he behaves fitting of a clan head. His strength, Sharingan and strategically mind were always his strong points. From the very beginning we were set up to fight each other and tried to best the other in fights till the bitter end. In one of these fights, I guess I was 18 years old, my last brother died on the battlefield. I can still see Tajima's katana stabbing through my brother's back. I stood behind my brother when Tajima attacked and all I could do was watch as my brother was run through with our enemy's weapon. I can hear his blood-freezing scream as he was run through. It was the last time I heard my brother's voice. He took him, my last brother. My most important brother, the one I told everything, the one that was always there for me even if he had to disobey our monster of a father. He was gone, simply gone, his bleeding corpse lying in my arms as Tajima laughed at my pain. There was no grave as we had to leave the corpses behind and my father decided that we don't need empty graves. I was furious but powerless. I had to endure and keep silent. It didn't take a full year for him to die and suddenly I was clan head. Thrust into a position of responsibility without the needed training and a political marriage coming around the corner. I didn't have the freedom to choose my first wife, but let's be real, in our times there isn't any clan head that chose his first wife on his own. Political marriages are the only way to secure alliances. The alliance with her clan has long since crumbled. Even her living in our compound didn't stop them from betraying us. Well, when she died you already know, but Tsuma concludes his short history. The pain of his memories very evident in his unseeing eyes. Nayuki observes her husband for some time until she realizes that his eyes are filled with unspilled tears. She pulls him into a hug, an awkward hug at that because Tsuma simply stiffens but doesn't react to her any further. Slowly she runs her hand in circled motions over his back, urging him to this much-needed moment of weakness. Even if he doesn't let his tears fall like she hoped to take the pressure and pain away, he relaxes into her comforting embrace. But Tsuma takes some moments to gather his thoughts again before asking his wife about her history. The unknown history he doesn't know of. A knowledge that could turn the entire situation around at once. Sure, he trusts her with his entire being, but if she were to be a child of an enemy clan he had to dispose of her, cold-blooded. Not that she would tell him anyway. She would have to be rather stupid if she were to admit that she is his enemy. But at least she couldn't run away anymore from telling him more about herself, giving him information that is much needed. After a long suffering sigh, Nayuki begins to stare into the air. The silence between stretches and Nayuki knows that she can't prolong her silence anymore as she begins talking. I grew up with only an old man, Hiruzen, taking care of me. Sure, there were 2 shop owners that occasionally would give me some free food, but that was my whole human contact inside my home village. Most of the villagers hated me for one reason or another. My mother died in childbirth. From what old man Hiruzen and my father always told me, she had really loved me. They said she was always looking forward to taking care of me. Though in the end she couldn't, and for that she apparently apologized to baby me. They said that in life my mother was gentle but fierce and always found a way to get her will. My father, a strong and gentle man, visited as often as he could, but as I told you, I don't know which or if he belonged to a clan. He just disappeared often and came back with bandaged wounds. I was a little child back then. Children don't get suspicious because some wounds they worry the suffering one. I always worried about him, but believed in his return all the time. I knew that he was strong, or at least I believed so. After all, he taught me a lot before he suddenly disappeared when I was about 7 years old. Sometimes I wonder if it was his fault that I was hated by the adults and shooed away from their children, but I never found. Nayuki stops and sighs. She hadn't imagined that spinning the truth around like that would be as easy as it is for her. Even though her father didn't mean it, he was surely a bit at fault for all the neglect she suffered in her childhood. He was an idealist and believed in the people of Konoha to realize her as the heroine she was. Thinking of Konoha brings back the images of her friends, how they met and slowly became closer, about their adventures and the pain they endured together. Smiling a pained smile, she continues her slightly tweaked story with them. Slowly but steady I could gain some friends over the years that were not kept away by their parents. At first we were 12 friends, but after Hiruzen died, I believe that I was 10 back then, one of my friends ran away. He had distanced himself from us after both his parents were murdered, but we hadn't thought that he would do something like that. My friends and I were always close, so we believed that if someone had problems he or she would talk to us. But when he ran away, we felt betrayed and never saw him again until our village was attacked. Quote, unconsciously she rubs her hand over the scar on her shoulder as she thinks about Sasuke's betrayal. It hurt so damn much when the only person she thought that could truly understand her just dropped her like used underwear. She would never admit it, but back then she had a small crush on the Raven Head. So the pain of his betrayal weighed hard. On the other side, the happy memories with Jiraiya begin to bubble into her heart. Oh, how she misses that damned pervert. Nayuki fixes her gaze back on Bitsuma, who listens to her story carefully and continues. In the meantime, a man who said of himself that he was my godfather appeared and began taking responsibility for me. He took me often on long trips to show me how to gather information that could save my life one day. I never thought about it, but I believe that he too was secretly training me in espionage, or at least some aspects of it. It would make sense considering that he was appointed my godfather by my father. He always said that he knew my father from a very young age. Even though he never wanted to tell me about my father, he boasted about being his teacher. I was happy back then. I had my friends by my side and a fine, if a bit perverted, guardian. Every last one of them I considered my family, but in times like this there is always something happening. One day my godfather told me that he had to go somewhere, but he would be back by the end of a month. He never returned. I was shattered. Another one of my father figures disappeared. Once again Nayuki needs to take a pause as tears gather in her eyes. Jiraiya's death will always be a sore point for her. After taking a deep breath she goes on with her tale. My friends helped me back to my feet. If I remember correctly, one of my friends back then had to lecture me because I neglected my diet after my godfather's disappearance. It took a while for me to get my grip back together, but I swore that I would search for my godfather's legacy. He too dreamed of true peace. He believed that true peace can only be accomplished if people truly begin to understand each other. So I decided to go on searching for him to find a way to create true peace. It didn't take long after that they came. I don't know who they were or whatever they wanted, but they completely destroyed our hometown. Those shinobi came out of nowhere and attacked. I can still see one of my friend's face when he jumped between me and one of the attacker. He gave his life so that I could live. It hurt so damn much to know that you kinda killed one of your friends by being irresponsible. Nayuki's voice began to waver at the thought of Neji's noble sacrifice in the war. The way he smiled while dying because he was finally free is fresh in her mind. Nayuki can feel the tears that up until now have only gathered in her eyes begin to overflow. She can practically feel Hinata's comforting embrace and her murmured words of hope. Oh, Hinata. Poor, lovable, innocent Hinata. After her near death in their fight with pain, she was slaughtered by that madwoman Madara for comforting Nayuki when she needed it. Nayuki sees it flashing before her eyes as Madara ripped Hinata's head from her body, giving the explanation that she shouldn't have interfered with Madara's attempt to break Nayuki's mind. A sob escapes Nayuki at thinking back to her unjustified and horrifying death. Letting her tears drop freely now, Nayuki starts once again, her voice shaky and soft. An occasional hiccup breaks her sentences as she tells, "My best female friends got massacred in front of my eyes just so that my attackers could enjoy seeing me breaking down." Amidst all this confusion and cruelty, the runaway friend returned. He helped trying to save as many as we could, but it was hopeless. We were fighting a hopeless battle. Our deaths were sure to come because this superior opponent. Obviously we lost, and I will never know how I survived or even got to the place you found me in. I'm just grateful that I got to meet you. After telling her tweaked story and remembering all the horrors of the Fourth Shinobi War, she has to lean into Bitsuma for support as she can do nothing but cry out all the suppressed pain that was hidden so long. Bitsuma doesn't comment on the situation or her story, he just comforts his crying wife as much as he can. It takes Nayuki several minutes to calm down again. As she does, she apologizes for losing control of her emotions while Bitsuma looks at her with an unreadable expression. He shakes his head and denies the need of an apology. He is in turmoil. How can this woman, my wife, still believe in peace after seeing everything she loved being murdered brutally just for fun? If she knows that dirty side of humanity, why would she still continue to dream this hopeless dream? Uncertain with Bitsuma's silence, Nayuki fidgets. Not being able to take his silence anymore, Nayuki asks, "Now, what do you think? I can't read your mind, so you need to tell me what you are thinking. You make me uncomfortable here?" Finally Bitsuma responds, "Why? If you have seen the hopelessness of this world because of humanity's dark and dirty desires, how can you still believe in a fool's dream of peace? Why would you live in false hope and pretend there to be a chance? It's foolish and stupid." Nayuki is taken aback by how harsh his words became at the end of his short rant. And hurt. First, she can't find any words to express her disappointment of his reaction and how much she is hurting from it. However, she soon finds her voice again and begins steadily, "I believe in the future and that people begin to tire from the ever-being war. The endless death and pain. I'm sure even you don't like killing and that it's painful for you to do it. In war there are no winners, only survivors and corpses. I'm sure that people soon realize that it's stupid to send children to die for a war no one even remembers starting. People will start to recognize that with the situation like it is now, the sacrifices of our forefathers are wasted. And if this is foolish to believe in, then you married a fool." It's been several days since Nayuki and Bitsuma had their conversation. As of now, Bitsuma hasn't addressed the topic further. However, Nayuki can clearly see him thinking hard on something these days, hopefully her words. Looking out of the window, Nayuki spots a lone squirrel running through the snow searching for food. Nayuki follows the little fellow with her eyes. It's been some time since she enjoyed such a peaceful day. Thinking about it, she nearly feels lonely. Hashirama and Tobarama were ordered to resume their training. Hanabi has taken baby leave as her own little rascal is due any day now, and Kawarama and Itama are sleeping well fed at the moment. It's nearly unbelievable that the clan was already starving with weaker ones knocking on death's doors when she returned. As the clan head's wife, she has attended several funerals since her return. She feels bad about letting those people down, even if it were mostly old people, but the few toddlers in between broke her heart. It still hurts her terribly when she thinks about the sobbing and whimpering, occasionally outward screaming mothers who had to bury their children. Shaking her head, she tries to chase away those terrible thoughts and the heavy guilt she is feeling every time she thinks about it. She gets up and cleans up the left dishes from breakfast before checking up on her younger sons. When she enters the boys' room, she can see Kawarama smiling at her. He waves his mother enthusiastically and babbles whatever comes to his mind. More often than not, it involves Ka-san and Otuto. Gently she lifts the boy into her arms. Softly she removes some strands of hair out of his face before placing a kiss onto her son's forehead. She takes the young boy with her as she goes back to the living room. Playing with her sons is one of her favorite pastimes. Every of their laughs and grins bandages the never-healing wounds of losing everything. It has become seldom that she thinks back to her old life. That doesn't mean she has forgotten about her dead friends, but that she is doing what they would have wanted from her, to look in a brighter future. Her beautiful family in this dangerous world is her anchor. After some time playing, she checks up on time. Soon her shift in the infirmary ward will begin. She heard that today several teams from the front line will arrive. Fast she shakes her head to not think about the terrible wounds she is going to have to treat soon. Too fast has the time gone by, and it's time for Nayuki to leave the peacefulness of playing with her sons and taking care of the household behind her in favor for trying to save lives and healing terrible wounds. Upon entering the infirmary wing, she is greeted with absolute and utter chaos. Medic nins run around trying to take care of every last of the wounded newcomers. Screams sound throughout the building. Whimpers come from corner and Nayuki doesn't know where to begin. There seems to be need for an extra hand wherever she looks. Gruesome bloodied bodies get carried around. Corpses are building up in a separate corner. Tears burn in Nayuki's eyes as she tries to clear her thoughts. Now is no time for sentimentalities. She has to help save whomever has a chance to survive. Just as she is about to aid one of the younger medics, Taiga comes up to her. Nayuki Heim. He addresses her, "I'm so glad that you're finally here. Could you take control of the Eastern Wing? There are the children located. I can't take care of every one of the medics." Nayuki nods sharply, gladly. "Who is the most pressing patient there? Anything I should know before going there?" Taiga sighs tiredly and answers, "A young kunoichi by the name of Toka. She is about Hashirama-sama's age and has a terrible gut wound. She has lost a terrible amount of blood and the wounds won't stop bleeding. I have little hope for the young girl. The medic nins in that wing are divided and take care of whoever they can, but little Toka is more or less given up on." In Nayuki's belly forms a knot. A child around Hashirama's age bleeding out? Not if she has anything to say about it. No longer paying her mentor any mind, she rushes past him to find the dying girl. Her footsteps are focused and her mind cleared as she strides up to the girl's bed. A middle-aged medic is crying while trying to stop the bleeding. Nayuki puts her hand on the desperate woman's shoulder and addresses her, "What's your name? I'm pretty sure you know me, but I'll still tell you my name. I'm Nayuki. Pull yourself together. If we act now, we'll save young Toka, don't worry." To emphasize her point, Nayuki flashes the crying woman a smile before taking in the extent of the wound. Fast she covers the wound in healing chakra, feeling the torn flesh. Deciding that simply trying to mend the flesh with chakra won't get her very far, she gets up to get her surgery tools. The crying woman watches the clan matriarch wide-eyed. Never have they seen similar tools before. Wary the woman observes as Nayuki begins working on the injured girl in front of her. Like a hawk the woman watches Nayuki's every move. Sometimes she even grasps for Nayuki's hand to demand an explanation before letting her continue. After the third interruption, Nayuki hisses at the middle-aged woman, "If you want for her to be soft-fed, you'll let me continue as I please. Your interruptions cause me to lose concentration and that can be deadly while being in surgery." Shocked the woman flinches away and lets Nayuki proceed as she pleases. It takes several hours for Nayuki to perform the surgery, before she deems the wounds prepared enough to give its final touches with healing chakra. Slowly she starts mending the wound together, minding the different organs. Seeing the results of her matriarch medical knowledge, the woman begins to calm down. "My name is Midoriko. I'm Toka's mother, Nayuki Heim. Forgive me, I have lost my husband several hours ago. I couldn't bear to lose my only child too." Midoriko hiccups silently, but regains hope for her child. "Don't worry," Nayuki calls out soothingly, "we'll save your daughter." Sweat is running down Nayuki's cheeks as she concentrates on mending the flesh wound in front of her. As soon as she deems the wound closed enough for Toka to pull through, she stops. Being satisfied with their work, Nayuki eyes the mother next to her. Now that the life of the girl isn't on the line anymore, she can observe the other medic silently. She has dark brown hair, almost black. It seems to be a shared trait of mother and daughter. Midoriko's dark eyes are red from all the crying for her husband and daughter, she presumes. In contrary to her daughter, Midoriko seems to be civilian except for her medical education. "Bandage the girl's Toka's wound carefully and try to not destroy my hard work again. Your daughter should be asleep for several hours. Maybe there is a chance that she wakes up tomorrow around midday. Nayuki informs the worried mother. Deciding that there are enough other patients to attend to, Nayuki leaves the mother alone with her unconscious daughter. She knows that she has lost a lot time with saving Toka, not that she would ever regret it, mind you, but there are many other patients in need of help. Nayuki eyes the bloodied and wounded children and now even adults that are gathered before her carefully and decides to not waste any more time before attending to her next patient. Other medic nins watch her from the corner of their eyes. Every last one of them saw her perform a surgery and are wary of the newfound form of medical attention. Not at least disturbed by the extra attention Nayuki gets started. Swiftly she takes care of the remaining patients in her wing. Finally finished with her last patient, Nayuki sinks into a bench exhausted. Tiredly Nayuki takes a few breaths before addressing a medic nin not too far away. I was informed that there would be teams returning from the front line, but I was under the impression that we don't send children to the front line, she states darkly. You're right to a certain extent, my lady. There are about 5 children fighting at the front lines, well, not directly. They are kind of the guards taking care of the camps several hours away from the battleground. However, our forces were forced back and not only got our camp destroyed but 2 teams returning from a mission got involved. The blonde man replied, it said that it became a massacre, about 20 of our men got killed on the spot. Several others died while trying to flee and the others, well, I believe we saw them firsthand. Nayuki looks at the blonde. He seems to be around her own age, so 17 years give or take. His long blonde hair is bound to a high ponytail. His green eyes are glazed with a faraway look. She takes a deep breath and asks, so the Uchiha won ground on us and did it in one hell of a bloody battle. I'm sorry, but I didn't get your name. The man turns back to her and smiles. I'm Sosuke, my lady. I have to admit I was skeptical when Taiga sung you high praise, my lady, but you've got me convinced now. You are definitely a very practiced and skilled medic nin. Even if I have to confess that I'm a bit spooked of the way you handled Toka's wound. I have never seen something comparable before. The aftermath of the day is hours of cleaning the infirmary wing. In Sosuke, Nayuki found a compassionate partner to take care of everything. As the night draws near, they are the last remaining medic nins still cleaning in their wing. Most of the others have already gone home because they were too exhausted. After putting away the last cleaning utensils, Sosuke bids Nayuki good night before heading home. Nayuki herself gathers her things and is about to head home when she spots Tora sitting on a bench near the birthing rooms. A smile pulls on her lips as she strides over to her friend and sparring partner. Tora, my friend, how long are you here already? And shouldn't Shikaku be with you? She addresses the rather ill-looking blonde. Pale as he is, the scar on his cheek is even more visible than normally as he looks at her. Seeing her approaching, he smiles weakly. Hoarse, he answers her, about 3 hours and I still didn't hear anything from in there. I'm getting nervous here. About Shikaku, he's on a mission right now. I wish he would have been here. It's agitating to wait on your own in front of a closed door for hours. Quote, the smile on her lips broadens at the sight before her. Really? He's so cute when he worries, Nayuki thinks to herself. I'm sure everything is alright. Sometimes it simply takes more time to give birth, and from what I know the first time always takes the longest. Nayuki tries to reassure him. As if to answer her words, the door to the birthing room Hanabi currently occupies swings open. Taiga walks up to them, obviously tired. It probably didn't help that Hanabi's child decided to be born on such a busy day. Taiga looks at Nayuki and pats her on the shoulder. Thanks for your good work today. From what I hear, young Toka will survive. Nayuki nods in acknowledgement before hinting at the man standing next to her. Taiga looks at her bemused and addresses Tora next. Oh Tora. You here too? Didn't see you there. Seeing as Taiga is in mood to joke around, she guesses that Hanabi and the child are both alright. She has to laugh at them as Tora fumes and nearly snaps at Taiga in worry. Now Tora. Calm down. Your darling wife and your beautiful daughter are both well. You can go inside to meet the new addition to your family if you want. Taiga grins at the fuming man in front of him. Hearing Taiga's words, Tora rushes by both of them and disappears inside the room to greet his daughter. Nayuki smiles at her mentor and states, from your easygoing tone I assume that everything went by smoothly? Taiga nods at his student and smiles. It was one of those births where there was no need to interfere. Mother Nature, Hanabi and young Miyu did all the work themselves. I'm glad that I'm allowed to end my day with this happy occasion. I'm glad too. After the chaos and desperation earlier, it's nice to have a reason to go home cheerfully. Miyu, huh? Good name. Nayuki agrees with the aged man happily. Steps can be heard in the desolated hallway. Every step resounds and muffled voices begin to sound. The dim orange light of the torches flickers across the wall and spends the walking woman the needed light to find her way. The nearer the young woman gets to her destination, the louder muffled voices get. Even though she dreads her arrival, she doesn't falter in her steps and moves on just as confident as before. By now the whispers evolved into shouts. The woman stops in front of the door, where she takes a deep calming breath. This is the first time she attends a meeting between the elders and her husband. She knows that her summon has to do with her supposed betrayal as an active healer. The whole clan has heard the rumors about the wonder of Toka's survival and how their beloved matriarch has to be a traitor to the clan. Even Hashirama asked his mother about her betrayal. She had to inform the naive boy that she indeed used medical techniques some would look at as traitorous because of their origin and execution. The boy was upset that medical knowledge that could save so many of their brothers and sisters was looked down upon as traitorous because of those petty reasons. It was a lengthy discussion that lasted the better part of the afternoon up till Batsuma returned home and was included into it. Luckily she could comfort her sons by promising them a new jutsu, while Batsuma saw the advantages they would have over their enemies by keeping their minds open and include the newfound knowledge into their forces. For now she banishes the thoughts of her family and concentrates on what is to come. Then she pushes the heavy door open and enters the meeting hall as she follows the summon she got earlier that morning. Silence penetrates the room as everyone's attention turns to the entering woman. One of the elderly men smiles and comments, "Ah." The woman in question decides to graze us with her presence. "Tell us, Nayuki-heim, what did happen in the hospital wing a few days ago? There are some of us who want to accuse you, my dear lady, of being a traitor." By looking at the elderly man, Nayuki can already see that he is one of those who are disgusted with her for practicing those traitorous techniques brought to them by the Westerners. He isn't very effective at hiding his feelings behind a mask as he believes himself to be. As a healer, you surely are aware that you swore an oath to never hurt your patients. However, we were informed that you hurt your patient with your terrible and traitorous way of treating her wounds. Every clan elder observes their matriarch with calculating eyes as Batsuma looks at his wife helplessly. The discussion both had several days ago did already clear up to him that she never broke her oath as a healer, but the elders don't want to believe him. The gazes of their clan elders weigh on Nayuki's shoulders and she tenses unconsciously. She lets her own gaze drifting throughout the hall. Nayuki's eyes soften as they lay on her husband's. Her whole body relaxes at his presence. She can see that he is enraged, not that everyone could see it. No, his clan head poker face is in perfect order. It's his eyes that give him away to his loving wife. He must have defended her for quite some time now to have lost his composure to this grade. Slowly she returns her attention to the clan elders again. She takes another deep breath and addresses the elders in front of her. "Esteemed clan elders, I am certain that there is a simple misunderstanding happening here. However, I shall indulge you with my version of the happenings a few days ago. As you all are aware, it was a rather chaotic day for everyone in the medical ward. I was asked to help out in this dire situation that called for every available helping hand. Upon arrival, I was informed to give my much-needed help to the harmed children in the Eastern Wing. My tutor Taiga himself instructed me. As I heard of the terrible fate little Toka found herself in, I just had to help. When I entered the room containing the dying girl, I was greeted with the picture of a desperate mother fighting for her only daughter's life. How could I have ignored this unbelievable cruel scene taking place in front of me? As a mother myself, I ached with the desperate woman in front of me. As I examined the wounds of the girl, I came to the conclusion that medical ninjutsu alone won't be able to save Toka's life. Therefore I decided to perform a surgery. Quote, "How dare you to say that our medical ninjutsu are not up to your standard?" An enraged woman called out, interrupting Nayuki's recap. Several elders agree and murmuring breaks in the room. Every now and then one calls their matriarch a traitor to the clan, accusing her of spying for Westerners, while others are appalled at the woman's insolence. Nayuki levels all of them with a glare. Her sensory skills tell her of a slightly disgusted and ashamed aura. She recognizes her own mentor between the elders. He seems like he would like to smash the heads of those ignorant fools into the floor for not only interrupting her recount but to also simply call something they are unfamiliar with traitorous without even knowing what it is and completely dismissing the aid it could provide the clan with. Nayuki sighs and shakes her head. She clears her throat and addresses the masses again. I did say no such a thing. As I was about to explain is that a surgery on itself isn't a healing method based only on chakra but more of a work with hands and surgical tools. When performing a surgery, the medic nin has to have the medical knowledge concerning the body structures of an average human being. I had to put every displaced piece of Toka's body at its rightful place before I could even think about applying chakra. There were several cases I had to sew flesh together because healing via chakra wouldn't be able to support the mending of every muscle fiber on its own. While Nayuki explains, Taiga's face lights up. He is definitely going to ask her about the procedure of a surgery in detail later on. Several of the elders gain a tint of green on their faces at the thoughts of having to put all those bloody parts back into place and even have to sew bleeding flesh together. How appalling. But Tsuma has a grim expression on his face as he listens to his wife closely. This could be their chance of gaining an advantage over their enemy clans. They only need to convince the elders of the given advantage. Nayuki herself is unimpressed as she goes on in her explanations. It was a lengthy process full of concentration. A simple mistake could have meant little Toka's death. It took me several hours to mend the poor deer enough to ensure her survival. Only afterwards I tended to the lesser injured children in the wing while leaving a joyous mother to process the knowledge that her daughter will survive. Quote, Nayuki pauses for a moment as she decides how to present her own thoughts about the current situation. Upon her decision she slightly nods to herself and finishes her little speech. Was it really that wrong to save the life of one of our future kunoichis? Was it really that wrong to use every bit of medical knowledge I have? Should I leave the next dying shinobi to his fate, just because the medical techniques I use were introduced to us by Westerners? I did not hurt her. I did save her life, the only possible way that remained. Without the help of a tiny little bit of damage, I couldn't help the girl. It's not like I just could will her wounds to heal and they do it for me. Forgive my assumption, but I believe not a single one of you, esteemed elders, was a healer in his or her younger days, or I would have met them on this fated day as we were tending to the wounded together. And even if one of you is knowledgeable in medical practices, they should know that there are always newer perceptions. So I ask you, why am I here while I could be tending to the wounded that really need my attention? As I am seeing it, you are not even trying to understand the complexes of the wonderful art of healing, the advantages coming from sharing and introducing new techniques, but also insist on disturbing and interfering with me and my mentor's work at the infirmary. Silence reigns after the matriarch's words as the elders try to process the obvious disrespect their matriarch uses while addressing them. More than one of them is outraged at her words, but an elder with a no business aura addresses the should-be hidden healer behind them. Taiga, my old friend. Is she talking the truth? Is there actually an advantage on learning those traitorous procedures? Is it really necessary to cause harm in order to heal sometime? This doesn't bode well with the healer's oath. Additionally, is it hard to believe that those invaders and strangers would willingly give away important knowledge? Taiga looks at his student. Nayuki smiles at him and his expression softens. A short nod is sent in her direction before he looks at the elder who addressed him beforehand, Elder Aoshi. She is telling the truth. There will always be newer medical practices and we will have to keep our minds open to find new perceptions and medicines. As a healer, I have to admit that it is necessary to injure a patient in order to help them. A once broken bone that healed together wrongly has to be broken and set right again too, doesn't it? It seems that some of our knowledge is already outdated and we have to make a move to ensure that we won't fall behind and end on the same level of medical knowledge as the Uchiha clan. A few cries of rage run through the assembled elders at the mention of the Uchiha clan. But Taiga seems undisturbed as he continues his little speech. He has to drive his point home somehow, doesn't he? It is hard to understand as warriors, but as sworn healers we strive for new knowledge, better techniques and the like to do what we swore to do. Save lives. It seems to conflict with our healer's oath if we cause harm in order to heal, but our main objective is to heal our wounded and not to look at the current damage and say that we can't help them because our oath doesn't allow us to save their life while doing the necessary procedures. You yourself, Elder Aoshi, would never forgive me if I could save the life of the wounded person in front of me just because my healer's oath says to not cause harm. Sometimes we have to see our rules more like guidelines than restrictions when we want to save our brothers and sisters. As of the moment, this meeting was absolutely pointless and only helped to clear up that, yes, there is a vast advantage at letting healers do their job without interfering, and that we have fallen behind with updating our medical knowledge. If it would be alright, I would like express my desire to return to my responsibilities and tend to the wounded. The expressions of the elders differ from every elder. Some are outraged at the old healer's words, while others are disturbed or shocked. They can't believe that they could possibly miss knowledge about medical treatments. They are the Senju clan, god damn it. The Senju clan is known for its vast knowledge concerning medical treatments. However, they have to admit that they can't know everything. After some silent discussion between the elders, going so far as to even exclude the clan leader of the discussion, Elder Aoshi nods at Taiga in a clear dismissal right before addressing their matriarch again. Nayuki Heim, it seems that we were in the wrong. You have our sincere apologize for our unjustly assumptions and accusations. From now on you will have to inform us of further possibly traitorous knowledge you possess. It would however be of advantage if you could inform our healers of your modern knowledge in return for the training you are offered. We will inform the clan of our misconception concerning your broken healer's oath. It isn't a question, but an order. Nayuki recognizes it as such and gives her short nod of approval. The tension leaves her body as she is freed of any charges. Nayuki is about to ask if she is dismissed as well when Batsuma beckons her to him. When she is at his side, he tells her to take her place at his side in this clan meeting. With all internal matters taken care of, I would like to inform you of an offered alliance the Sarutobi clan would like to agree on. They would like to at the very least sign a non-aggression pact with us. At the moment they are indebted to us through my wife who saved their only surviving clan heir of a certain death. The proposition includes? As the meeting proceeds, Nayuki gets her first impression of her duties as clan matriarch and the tasks she will have to perform if her husband should lose his life too soon for their son to become clan head. Not that she would like it. All these stuck-up asses sitting there and criticizing everything and anything. There is always something they don't like, but they bring up interesting and important points too. Nayuki feels kind of overwhelmed as the meeting comes to a close and everyone ushers out of the room, leaving her and Batsuma behind. Batsuma turns to his wife and grazes her with a rare smile of his. His hand moves to her face and he caresses her cheek softly before diving in for a short but gentle kiss. Nayuki hugs her beloved, Suma, and relishes his tender love. I'm proud of you, Yuki, you did very well. I would very much like it if you could attend the further meetings as well as the official meeting with the Sarutobi clan. I believe that none of the elders can continue to believe that they are talking to a naive and stupid young woman trying for attention, but Tsuma tells her. Nayuki nods at her husband's approval as the last bit of tension leaves her body. The upcoming trial because of her possible betrayal had her stressed the last few days, but now she is free to do as she pleases once again. Nayuki herself is satisfied with how she handled the trial the elders put her through as well as the meeting part she attended. Her further involvement into clan affair, however, pleases her to no end. This is the ticket to help creating a better future she needed. Soft murmuring noises color the background as two men are discussing and evolving their plans. Each man is a powerful clan head that is thinking of the best for his own clan, and therefore the alliance discussions are stretching for several weeks already. Both men are wearing, instead of their usual battle clothes, finest yukatas worthy of their station. It took the Sarutobi clan some time to get used to the third part involved into the discussions. Sitting right next to her husband, Nayuki gives her own input and advice for the construction of their oncoming and fragile alliance. Even though she would never admit it out loud, her feet fell asleep throughout those discussions. They had this awkward numb feeling for some time now, and she is willing to bet that she'll fall on her face if she has to stand up anytime soon. Not that waiting longer is going to make it any easier. To ease the feeling in her feet, she sends a tiny little bit of chakra into her feet. In the corner of her eye she can see 2, maybe 3 Sarutobi shinobi snapping to attention. Those must be their sensors. Deciding that she can't make the situation any worse, she gestures to her numb feet and gives them a suffering smile. One of them seems to have caught on as he has to smother a short laughter in his hand while coughing. Nayuki smiles. This man is probably one she can get along with. As she brings her attention back to the discussing clan heads in front of her, she decides that Batsuma has caught on to her situation as well. While his facial expression doesn't portray any emotions, his eyes are shining in amusement. Shigeru Sarutobi, the Sarutobi clan head and father of Sasuke, seems clueless when it comes to what has happened between the Senju matriarch and his censors. And as such the discussions go on for another several hours. When the discussions have stopped for the day, as feared, Nayuki makes a scene of herself by face planting on the floor as she tries to stand up. Groaning in self-pity she rises again. Her friends of the past, future always thought her clueless, but she believes that Shigeru is pushing cluelessness to a whole new level as he blinks at her owlishly, not understanding what happened. Deciding that she doesn't want the sniggering of most shinobi around and Shigeru's clueless face to continue, she strikes a conversation about their upcoming dinner. Shigeru immediately laps onto her thoughts of dinner and they start a casual talk. Nayuki shakes her head at the clan head's antics in front of her. She still remembers him going to his knees in order to thank her for saving his last living son's life. It made her very uncomfortable. He looked so sincere and relieved to finally meet the person he owes one hell of a debt to. If it was just her alone she'd have told him to forget his debt to her, but sadly as a clan matriarch she has to treasure the debt. You never know when you'll need to cash it. She is dismayed at keeping the loving clan head in front of her at her debt, but anyway, she isn't even sure how much of his happy-go-lucky attitude is a mask he wears to make them underestimate him and how much is the real him. Even Bitsuma isn't sure about the character Shigeru presents. The only thing they are sure about is that Shigeru loves his son dearly and would do anything for the boy's safety. That thought brings a smile to Nayuki's face. Bitsuma and her would do anything for their children too. Even though Bitsuma hides his feelings well and acts all stoic around his sons, you can see his love and pride shining in his eyes. Sometimes Nayuki feels like only Tobirama is able to understand how their proud father shows his emotions. Sadly, it seems that his stoic act can't be interpreted by Hashirama. The voice of the young Sarutobi heir breaks Nayuki out of her thoughts. He and Hashirama have accompanied their fathers to this meeting. Both boys immediately hit it off. Nayuki didn't even know that someone can become friends within seconds of meeting each other, but those two have proven her wrong. Bitsuma seems to worry about the close bond both boys share. Seeing as their alliance is as frail as glass, it's understanding. You never know when it falls to pieces, and it would crush both of them to meet again upon the battlefield. If for nothing else, she will make sure this alliance is working for the boys' sake. She is shaken from her wandering thoughts once again as Bitsuma takes her arm and they begin their journey to get the much-needed food they spoke of mere seconds before. The rest of the journey they're accompanied by joyous laughter and shrieks as the boys play. Finally, the numerous hours of discussing their alliance are over and an agreement has been struck. While it is wonderful to return to their respective clans, families and friends, it is also time to say goodbye to new friends. Nayuki already dreads Hashirama's gloomy attitude when it's time to separate from Sasuke's side. Nayuki herself has a new friend she dreads saying goodbye to, Takaru. As predicted, she got along with the censor shinobi that sniggered at her predicament when her feet fell asleep. They met up the evening after said negotiation and talked over the bonfire that was lit in the middle of their shared camp. As it turns out, Takaru is a humorous man. He cracked many jokes. The only thing he loves more than joking around is to talk about his family. He adores his two daughters. Both of them take after their mother than him if his tales are anything to go by. His wife has a more serious outlook on life than her husband, but they love each other all the same. One day Nayuki wishes to get to know all three of them. For anyone who can make a man like Takaru smile the way he does when talking about his family must be worth knowing. Loud laughter hollers throughout the clearing they used for their camp as the more than a bit tipsy shinobi joke and share stories for a last time before separating. They celebrate a new and hopefully flourishing alliance. The clan leaders are hunched together and share a well-earned bottle of sake as Nayuki sits by their side watching all the smiling and happy faces around the fire. These days of rare happiness are pure bliss and balm for her soul. Though they remind her of times back in Konoha together with the Konoha 11, she cherishes these new memories. Dwelling in the past does no one good, she has decided long ago. She can't return there, so it doesn't do to think about it all the time. In the corner of her eye she catches Hashirama and Sasuke sneaking away from the camp. A shared look with her husband shows that he too caught on the boys leaving the camp. She nods in his directions and moves to follow them. When the noise of the camp is dimmed enough to be barely audible, the boys stop. So it's time to say goodbye, huh? Sasuke asks, whispering. Goodbye, yes, but we will see each other again. I can feel it in my bones that our friendship will hold long. Maybe we will even die old and gray next to each other hearing our grandchildren play in the garden. Hashirama tells his friend with conviction. Sasuke can't stop the laughter bubbling up within him. Surely you jest, my friend. Already thinking of grandchildren when we are not even 8 years old, and you. Sasuke trails off as he smiles at his friend, determined to make it come true. He hugs Hashirama and they start a hushed conversation. Nayuki decides to settle down behind a tree far enough away from them to give them their privacy but still be near enough to protect them if need be. Yes, those two will be friends till the bitter end, she promises herself. They deserve it. A smile appears on her face as she listens to the nightly sounds and the feast not too far away, dreaming of a glorious future for their clans, and Konoha being rebuilt.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.